My name is Ariana Ascencio. I'm 29 years old and I identify as a Salvadoran-American. So I was born in Silver Spring, Maryland. I would say my neighborhood was mostly a Jewish community, and we were actually one of the only Latin people in the neighborhood. But my elementary school, which was really close by, was pretty diverse, I would say, with a lot of different people from different backgrounds, which was a really good experience. As a Salvadoran, I think there's a lot of us over there, a lot of Salvadorans in the Maryland community in DC, and that's where all of my family is currently on both my mom and dad's side, so everyone was like very close by. Yeah, I would say growing up, when it came to being a Salvadoran American, most of my connection was through my family. Friends that I made in school and all that stuff, they're actually from so many different places. I would say growing up, majority of my friends were children of immigrants, so that was kind of my community around me. In my middle school and high school, there was maybe a few white kids, but it was majority like very immigrants. And I had, I think, a couple of friends from El Salvador or Central America, and I think over time I don't know, gravitated to like different kinds of people. Yeah. So growing up, I do think my first language was Spanish because my parents just both spoke to me in that way until I was old enough to go to elementary school. And then after that is when it really just kind of flipped and I was very much like more of an English speaker. But I speak to my parents more in English now. But when it comes to like my uncles and my aunts and my grandmas, I speak to them mostly in Spanish. I do think that for some reason growing up I had this weird sort of relationship with the language or like the culture where I didn't really want to be connected with it, and I was just like, I don't want to learn Spanish. I already know it. Like, you know, we speak it at home. I know everything. And I took like French. I took French class, and I think I took Portuguese in college for a year or something. So as I really did like French class, and it, you know, helped me out in the future once. But I do feel like I could have spoken more when I was younger. And I could have put more effort into it. I can put more effort into speaking it on a day-to-day basis. Because there will be a lot of times growing up where I'll speak to my mom in English and she'll be like, say it in Spanish, you know, do it again. So yeah. And I think it's also during the summer, my grandma would sometimes teach me and my brother how to write in Spanish. So it was helpful, but I honestly did not retain a lot of it. I know for the most part, like it's how you write it, how you say it type of thing. So that helps. But like when it comes to accents and like future and past tense, I am not great at that. So now it's actually interesting because I feel like pursuing film and acting now, I'm getting more opportunities to speak Spanish because just of the roles that I happen to get into, and it's helping me sort of like work that muscle again and get more into the flow. I will say when I first go to El Salvador, for example, and I'm like talking to people, they can immediately tell that I'm not from from there, or born there, and it just takes me a while to get sort of in the rhythm of the language. I can't speak as fast as some other people, but I can definitely carry a conversation. Also, living in New York, I feel like I've used it so many times because people just come up to me and like ask me for directions or, you know, all those things. So yeah, it's really interesting how that comes back around. Yeah, they definitely wanted me and my brother to improve our vocabulary because they just didn't want us to lose it. I think my mom has definitely expressed the worry about like, if I have kids, are they going to know any Spanish at all? Which is like a very real thing, you know, passing that down. There was definitely a moment in middle school or somewhere around that time where someone might have made a comment about like Salvadoran culture that made me feel like I was sort of like beneath them or something. Because I think especially within Latin America, there's still, you know, there's a lot of like colorism that happens and all these things. So kind of encountering that in middle school. I don't remember exactly what the comment was, but just having this feeling of like, oh, is this person like better than me because they, you know, they grew up in this with this background. And I think I never really spoke Spanish around my friends, so they never really like have heard me. Yeah, it's really interesting how that sort of manifests. I think growing up, I didn't understand the sort of divide that like there is with like Mexican and El Salvador and just like that conflict. At first it was just like, oh, it's a soccer thing. Like, I don't know. But like as you get older, you just, I don't know, realize that, I mean, I've personally found through my own, you know, journey of research and things like that, like a lot of Salvadoran migrants, like the way they get treated, like trying to go through Mexico and like live in Mexico is not good. And again, there's like that whole issue of like colorism and like stuff like that. So I mean, I feel like I'm obviously someone who's open to everyone, and I just think it's important for everyone on both sides, because there's been in El Salvador too, like I said, there's a lot of colorism there, like just acknowledging that your country isn't like perfect and that there's issues when it comes to race and like just culturally. I think that's kind of how I view it, you know, sort of like just like acknowledge, like maybe you're not doing it yourself, but being aware of like that white supremacy is still a thing in like El Salvador and Mexico. So I think having that awareness is like really important to me. I would say my parents would definitely identify as mestizo, and yeah, I think, I mean, they just say Salvadoreño, so I think my mom's side has a little bit more of the Spanish, Spanish roots. Yeah, so I think she's like very interested in that as well, like kind of the European background, which is very interesting to me. But yeah, I think they would both say, my parents would both say they're mestizo. Unfortunately, yeah, I gave into the DNA kit wave. So yeah, I did it, me and my brother did it. And we're pretty much like, it told me kind of everything that I already knew. We're like split down the middle of indigenous and Spanish. And I think also my parents talked more about the Pipiles, which is a community that I really wasn't really aware of growing up. I was like, oh, it's either Aztec or Mayan. Like, there's only those two, but there was this other, group of people there that lived there and that I probably have more connections with. So that was really interesting to find out about. I feel like I definitely do have a place because it's still a very much marginalized community, but at the same time, I can acknowledge as like a light-skinned like American, I have a lot of privilege and like I should know my place. But I think it's also important to me to just uplift those voices and talk about all of the resources and conversations that just don't really get talked about. I think, for example, like, mental health and talking about trauma and like sexual identity and religion, and those things are still really difficult to kind of talk to, especially with like older generations. So I think it's sort of, I don't know, just I put it upon myself to just like learn more about it, and just like maybe the way I grew up allowed me to be super open-minded, and I just want to, make sure that more and more people in the community feel welcomed and feel like they can express how they feel or what they believe in more openly. So when it comes to those topics, I do like to make sure like I can speak my opinion. I think pretty consistently El Salvador for me is it's where my family's from, and a lot of my childhood memories there are pretty positive. My grandma by the time I was born, she got her own house near the Capitol, and it's like, nice neighborhood. So we'd go there to visit during Christmas and like different holidays. So it'd really be a time to just like, be with family and like, explore the city and go to the beach and all that stuff. So it was always like mostly positive memories, like growing up really younger. And I think as I got older, I learned more about, the history, obviously, and like I learned more about how there was like some safety concerns. When you're walking around in certain places, you should refrain from speaking English or having jewelry out, things like that. Those are just things like my mom would tell me when we were out there. It's just to speak more Spanish. And yeah, I think now currently there's been so many changes, and people are saying now it's like safer, but at the same time it's like gentrification's also kind of happening over there, and there's so many different things. So my relationship now, it's still like positive with childhood memories, but also I think I'm able to reflect now more of the different levels of like poverty that my family has lived through, and like some of my distant family members still live through. So it's sort of becoming a little more complicated that way. I would say growing up, it was definitely about family time. It was about like exploring the different areas. It was about the food, obviously. And I think it's mostly been consistent. I think what's changed is sort of like what I see through it now, in a way. We're having like meeting people who are family friends, and as a kid I didn't really question who they were or how we knew them, but growing up I actually find out like how they know my grandma and like how they're connected, and like obviously now every time I go there, the people that I know are mostly older. Yeah, I would say when I was younger I sort of didn't think about it too much, but as I got older I wanted to just learn more about the history of El Salvador and the people there, and learning more and more about the process of like how the war kind of displaced so many people, and like how that happened. And I mean it was a lot of internet googling like so my grandma was the first one on my dad's side to leave the country to get a job, something stable. Before my dad was born, while she was pregnant, her husband died. So my dad never had his dad, and his dad was like an alcoholic, and so she had to go out and venture and like find a stable paying job. So she moved to DC, where she was a housekeeper for this I think she was like a wealthy Costa Rican woman in DC. So that's when she came here, and like I'm not sure exactly where she lived, but I know she was at that house a lot, and like slowly she would get like more of her sons and her kids to come, and like my cousins would come, so it slowly went from there. Yeah. My grandmother's still alive. She's 96, I think. Honestly, I've gotten stuck for like the last 3 years, but I think there's something about our connection, me being the daughter of her youngest son, where I feel like she's really warm towards me, and like I think I came at a time where she was in a much better place in her life. So it's always been really positive, and she babysat me growing up during the summer when she would come visit. And I think as I'm getting older, I'm realizing I still embrace that positive relationship, but I'm also acknowledging more of like how much she went through to get where she is today, and like the trauma she's had to deal with from like her family and her husband, and all of that, and just seeing like how much she's gone through. And now she's at the age where she's pretty like stuck in her ways and like stubborn. Like she's kind of powered through so many health issues, especially this year. So I really admire her for her strength in that, while also seeing like maybe like some of the flaws, or just like things that maybe she can't see clearly because of her own influences and like from her family or like religion and stuff like that. My family's Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, but I'm no longer identifying as Catholic. I would say growing up, my dad told me that he was like an altar boy growing up and participated in that way. And my mom definitely, I think I think my great grandparents were pretty religious, and my mom grew up like going to church every Sunday and, you know, believing in God and like all of those things. So I think it had a large impact on like her perspective on things now. And yeah, I think my mom has talked about it a little bit, maybe not so much like with teen marriage. I mean, she has acknowledged that a lot of people over there, like family is such an important piece of the culture that they encourage it so much so that some people feel pressure to get married at a young age, or like it's, you know, but I think we've talked a lot about also like the fact that like women's rights is kind of an issue at hand right now in El Salvador, like especially when it comes to like abortion rights and things like that. We do talk about that, and I think it comes from, she talks about it from her perspective of being a supporter of women's rights, but at the same time there's a lot of like church influence and like viewpoints, but I think we like discuss like how much of an issue it is, and just sort of obviously we can't really do much we personally can only do so much to change it. It's really, you know, the government who has control, but like, yeah, she sort of just talks about it in a sort of like that it's a shame type of thing. My parents met in high school actually in DC, but they both moved to the States around the same time a lot of people were moving during the Civil War, so it was like the early 80s, and that's when they were in high school. But they met in high school. So on my mom's side, my mom's told me she grew up with her grandparents, and her mom, my grandma, also came here. I think she came to New York first to find a job, but my mom was really sad. She did not want to leave El Salvador, even though there was like so much going on, and she's told me about like some violence that she's witnessed like on the streets just casually, and she was really sad that she had to leave her grandparents because they raised her from a young age, and yeah, she was just really scared. And she remembers like coming to DC in January when it was like super cold, there was so much snow. She told me how she lost like a lot of weight after moving here, probably from, you know, the change. So yeah, it was just, I guess, leaving that comfort and having to restart and, you know, learn the language and the customs and all those things. My parents have definitely told me what it was like growing up for them in El Salvador. My mom grew up, I think, in Santa Tecla, so maybe a little closer to the capital, where my dad grew up in another area. I think, I'm not exactly sure. It's either San Vicente or Usultan, one of those. But yeah, talking about how rough it was just going to school, like, and riding the bus, and especially as they got older and things got a little more intense, they've given me examples of like, oh, they were robbed on the street one day, you know, on their way to work or like going to school, and you know, having kind of to just be raised by, my mom was raised by her grandparents, my dad was really raised by his siblings, so growing up in that sort of environment and kind of trying to be more, I think they had to be a lot more independent. Yeah, I think I just want to emphasize that people who come from El Salvador, especially who grew up during the war and have been through a lot of trauma like that, tend to hide things or unknowingly let it kind of influence their life. Yeah. I feel like with my mom, for example, she grew up with like a very strict parental figure. So I think that influenced her in a way where she's kind of like very anxious and always like making remarks about like, oh, if you had lived with my grandmother, like it wouldn't have been like this. And sort of not living with fear, but just kind of living with like constant anxiety, which sometimes I wonder if partially it's because of what she went through as like a young teenager. And with my dad, who was raised by his siblings and was also there during the war and had to leave as a teenager, I think that also kind of influenced how he is today in a way. But at the same time, I think both my parents came here when they were young enough to like learn the language, make friends. So they were kind of able to assimilate a little bit easier. Whereas, people who come when they're a lot older, it could be a lot harder for them. But yeah, I think there's just like story upon story that's just like going in my head right now of things that I learned. For example, on my last trip to El Salvador, I went with my dad and my uncle, and we're walking through the Capitol, which now is like very like going through innovations and like all these things, and we would just be casually walking around and be like, oh, this is where I got robbed, or this is where they shot like a bunch of people during the war. So it really makes you, I just realized like how much like my family has witnessed and gone through and just hasn't really expressed it, besides in a way that's like in casual conversation and then immediately moving on from it, which is interesting to me. It's been very eye-opening. I think I was kind of overwhelmed. I was like trying to process it. It was because it was just like so much at once, and we were, obviously having a good time walking around and stuff, but having to just process like all of the violent history and things that they went through in those exact spots. It took me a second to be like, oh, like my parents could have also been lost during that time, like if they didn't leave when they did, or if they stayed, like I really don't know what would have happened to them. So yeah, that's something I guess I didn't process until just now.
Have you and your mom had conversations about anxiety?
Yes, I think we have had more conversations, especially because I deal with a lot of anxiety. I think there's been times where she could tell me to not be nervous and, just like, I don't have to worry and just like be brave, don't cry, all those things. But I think as I've gotten older, I can kind of call her out on it when she's worrying a lot as well, and where I'm like, oh, I know where I get it from now. But yeah, it's never really gone too in depth. Besides, like, I usually am the one who has to like bring it up so we could talk about it. Yeah, so as far as I can remember, both my parents worked while I was growing up. My mom, she did not go to college. My dad went to 1 or 1.5 years of community college in Virginia, but didn't finish. My mom, I can't remember the job she had before going into travel, but she ended up being a travel agent and was working in travel for like majority of her life, and working like for the government in DC. And my dad, I never really understood his job for a while, but he's like a building engineer. So whenever there's any issues going on in the office or like in the building, he's the guy to call. Growing up, my mom was definitely the person who took care of me and my brother when it came to like cooking and cleaning. And I still think that's, for the most part in Latin culture, it's the woman's job. Luckily that's changing now, but she would kind of make everything. I remember every Sunday we would have like traditional like Salvadoran breakfast, like frijoles, queso, plátanos, pan, and then like café con leche. So that's like a really special memory that I have. And she did teach me how to make some things, and I do wish like growing up I paid more attention, because those are just moments that I can still go back and get them, but it's kind of a little harder now, and eventually it's like you don't get that back. So I do wish I put more effort into learning like the different dishes that she made, and like having her show me like traditional Salvadoran dishes. Like when it comes to pupusas, only my grandma on my dad's side knows how to make them, and like my aunt, who's her only daughter, is learning how to make them as well. But like it's just so specific that you really can't get anywhere. And like when I think about pupusas, I think about like my aunt's house just like being filled with the aroma of pupusas and just having it be like a whole event. So in a way I am like a little bit scared of like losing that as I get older, and if I do have kids, what if I lose that? Like I don't want to lose that. So I do kind of wish that I put more effort in while I was living in Maryland with my family when it came to like family meals and all those things. Yeah, I would say growing up, my parents were pretty protective in the way that I wasn't, for example, growing up, a lot of my friends had, not too many of them because there were a lot of immigrant kids, but like sleepovers, that wasn't a thing for me until I was 18. Or like or actually moved away to college, so that was my first time living away from them. So it was sort of, I don't know, like a lack of conversation. It was more just like, these are the rules and you should follow them because we're your parents, you know? And I think that's kind of where a lot of my anxiety and like people pleasing comes from, because I know if I behave well, then I'll get rewarded, or, you know, I will, you know, everything will be okay. And again, my parents are really open-minded. I just think, you know, I was the first kid, oldest daughter, so there was that level of sort of like being really protective, in ways that like I'm grateful for in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I think it prevented me from being open about a lot of conversations with them. For example, like with relationships or just like things like that. Like it was like a non-conversation. Like boys was like, no, like just no boys. I do think growing up, there was still kind of a lot of, like toxic masculinity, or like machismo mentality going on. So, for example, a lot of like my cousins who are I have a couple cousins who are girls, like for us, like relationships and boys, like they were just kind of like a no, and like our family would joke about them, but it would be like jokes where we could laugh, but now it's like, oh, I'm not gonna tell you anything now because it just doesn't feel like a safe space. Whereas I feel like with a lot of the boys in my family, it's kind of a lot more open. And my brother, I think he's the youngest. My brother's the youngest cousin on my dad's side, and then like the second youngest on my mom's side. So we had a pretty similar experience. We weren't that far apart in age, but yeah, I feel like he feels more comfortable being able to talk about relationships, or like bring a girlfriend around and, you know, meet the family and all those things. And also when it comes to like going out, I think, I don't know if it's because I turned out okay that now my parents are like, okay, maybe it's fine if, like, you know, he goes out and does this stuff. Because, I think he has like maybe, it felt like he's had slightly more freedoms than I did, or less. He still had a lot of questioning, but maybe a little less, you know. Growing up, education was super important. You know, I was really more of a bookworm when I was younger. I read a lot and I enjoyed school. I was really good at coloring. I always loved drawing. I think in middle school is when like it started going downhill with like math and stuff. But I think they were never super, they were never really like anal about being like straight A's and all those things, but they would get like questionable if it was like below a B. If it was like a C, you know, they're like, you know, you gotta study better, do this and that. And obviously if I got lower than that, then they would be upset. And I think for them, college was always really important. They never really pressured me into studying a certain type of thing, which I really am grateful for, because I feel like there's a lot of times where parents want you to be a specific person, but they were pretty open. They just wanted me to go to college, which was good, but I feel like maybe in a way it was just, I felt kind of like I didn't know who I was personally, but by the time I got to college, like I knew of things I enjoyed doing and, you know, that kind of stuff, but I think what I studied and like what I was trying to achieve wasn't truly what I wanted for myself. So I went to community college my first year in Maryland because my grades in high school were not good, and I wanted to go to like University of Maryland where all my friends were going, but I just didn't get in. So I did kind of like get into high gear and like worked on my grades, because I just felt like at that point, community college, I felt even more of a disconnect. Like the community, you know, I mean, you know, it's hard to develop when you don't like live on campus or like all those things. And I just wanted to find more opportunity creatively. So I applied to a couple schools, and I got accepted into Syracuse University, which I ended up just doing like a bunch of research on, and like hearing about their communication school, how it's so good. So I think that was just kind of a no-brainer for me to just like go there. I was like, oh, it's the best option. They have the best, facilities, all these like resources and things like that. So I was just excited that I even got in, honestly, and I got the chance. I think college was definitely, in the beginning, very scary because I was so used to being at home and being close to them. Actually, literally on the first day of moving to Syracuse, I had like an anxiety breakdown where luckily they were there with me, so for a couple of days, so we like talked and like comforted each other. So yeah, I was thinking about that and like get like emotional, but so yeah, I think they were just excited that I was doing something more for myself, and they were curious about the classes I was taking, but at the same time, I don't think they fully understood what it was I was doing. I think in the first year there, I took like a range of different classes. For PR, they have you do like, there was one video, it was like an introduction to video production class where we got to like do like short, like, what are they called when they draw the screen? Like, when they plan out the movie and they do like the different drawings.
Storyboards.
Yes. There was a class where we did a storyboard, and I'll never forget like getting a compliment from my instructor for my storyboard and like feeling so proud of myself. But I don't know, I felt like I was very indecisive in that point, and I was too shy to do like journal, like, be on camera, so I didn't want to do anything like that. I didn't think my writing was good enough to be a journalist. There was just a lot of self-doubt going on, and I also just felt like, honestly, it was too soon for me to decide what I wanted to do with my life. So I just picked the most like general kind of one, but at the same time, it was like it was interesting a lot of the times, and there are a lot of creative aspects to it, learning how to like manage an event or promote an event, it's fun. And also learning about the different types of public relations, like crisis public relations and entertainment. So I think I always just really, for me, I've just always enjoyed storytelling and like all that, so I felt like that was kind of like the closest I could do at the time. I think I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself growing up as I was pursuing education and feeling like I needed to get good grades and feeling like a failure when I didn't do as well as I should have, just because thinking about that story that a lot of people can relate to, that your parents just want the best for you and they left their own homes, maybe not by choice, but that now that they're here, they want to make sure you have better experiences than they do, and that you don't have to struggle like they did. So I do feel this pressure that I want to one day like be able to provide for them in the way they've been able to provide for me. And yeah, it's been tricky because now I've found a love for the arts, and unfortunately the arts aren't as funded as well as other job prospects, but I think they're accepting of it, but at the same time my mom, for example, is definitely worried when I don't have something stable, or just would rather have me climb up the corporate ladder, and just stick around, stick it out, just you'll grow there without really understanding that like I'm just not happy and I just want to pursue something very specific that just unfortunately doesn't pay full time yet. So growing up, like I said, I really loved drawing and all those things, and I used to, in middle school, I made like my own little comic book and like all that. So my parents did like encourage it and they supported it. And I think even though they supported it, I was still really shy as a kid. So I refrained from like a lot of like, public speaking opportunities or like pursuing different things as a kid where I'd have to stand out. And then, yeah, I moved to New York after graduating because I feel like there was more organizations here that I could maybe enjoy working for. After college, I moved to New York after a year in DC where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And like, there's some organizations in DC that are media related that I could have worked for, like nonprofits. But I ended up just feeling like a lot of my classmates also lived in New York, so I think I sort of got influenced that way. And there's just a lot more organizations here that I was more interested in working for. So I moved here and I worked like several random corporate jobs, from like event assistants to like marketing, like kind of all over really. And then, yeah, I forget, one day I just took like an improv class that I found on Groupon and it was in Midtown and I really didn't know what I was doing, but yeah, it was a lot of fun and I just felt like it was a way for me to sort of escape that kind of day-to-day corporate life that I was doing, and it just kind of kept developing. I kept taking more classes, and yeah, and then I, during the pandemic, ended up signing up for a 2-year conservatory, and that's kind of where it really started to take shape, and I really felt like this was what I wanted to pursue. So yeah, the improv class I took was at Magnet Theater. They had like a drop-in weekend class, and then I took improv at And Theater, I think it's called, and they're both in Manhattan, and I think it just helped me get past a lot of anxiety and just like self-doubt that I would feel about myself, or indecisiveness, because it's so much about being in the moment and just like, you know, listening to the other person. I feel like I was able to start to let go of a lot of like insecurities and like worries that I had just like day to day. And yeah, let go of a lot of, I think when I first started doing improv, I was still very much someone who's in their head and like overthinks everything, but it forced me to just embrace like different parts of my personality and like embrace that like, oh, like I can be funny, or like, you know, and just like go with the flow, and just like I can think on my feet really quickly of something really creative. So boosting that confidence is what that did for me. I mean, if I was raised in a different environment, I do wonder if like, oh, would I have been even more closed off, or just like, or super open and like just, you know, willing to try anything and not hesitant. So I think it's definitely a combination of how I was raised by immigrant parents and like what values they kind of instilled in me, but also a mix of like what I personally love to do. And like I think they also love like creative things also, because growing up we would watch a lot of movies together, and that's I think how my parents kind of grew accustomed to American culture, was through a lot of 80s movies. So I think they just maybe weren't expecting how much that I would actually like want to be a part of that world creatively. Yeah, so I went to Stella Adler, the 2-year evening conservatory. First sort of acting school that I've ever attended ever. Yeah, and it was during the pandemic, so at first it was like hybrid, and it was I think it was very obvious at first how much anxiety I still had about myself compared to like some other people there who grew up acting and, you know, things like that. I felt very much behind. But I learned like all the foundations sort of for acting, like voice, like audition technique and voice and speech, you know, all those things. So it was a really like insightful experience, and I made like a couple like really good close friends out of it, which was helpful. It did take a lot because I was working a 9 to 5 during the day and then doing classes at night. So it was kind of tricky to balance for a little while. And I think the second year, either the beginning or somewhere, is when I quit my job, and I just was just like, I'm just gonna do this now. And I did like work study for them and stuff. So it was definitely just like a whole new world because, you know, growing up, I also didn't get really exposed to like theater or like, you know, reading plays and things like that. So I felt like there was so much that I just needed to absorb. And yeah, it was very eye-opening for me.
Welcome to Badass Lady Folk,
I'm your host, Christine Stoddard. This episode, I'm overjoyed to welcome two guests, Ariana Ascencio and Courtney Atera, both actresses.
Ooh,
hey, girls.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for just going along with all this weirdness.
I'm here for it.
And seeing the Manhattan Neighborhood Network studios for the first time.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
beautiful
It
in
is
here.
super nice.
Even the bathrooms are pretty.
Yeah, so this is a commercial for M&M. I wanted to ask how it feels to shift gears like this.
Yeah.
Because we did Badass Lady Folk and
Yeah.
we did an hour-long interview about acting, and
Yeah.
then we did a little bit of improv with Art Bitch, and now I'm asking about your identity as a Salvadoran-American. Yeah, so what's going on in your heart?
I mean, I think that was a good warm up for sure. Just like talking about acting in general, and then like doing improv is always a way to get you just like out of your head. I'm also, I just got back from El Salvador like last week, so I
Yeah.
feel like I'm more like present with how I feel about like all of that stuff. Whereas I feel like when we spoke last time, it was just a lot from memory and all those things. So
Yeah.
this time it was just like, oh, like it's kind of like more fresh on the mind.
So,
But we also talked about so many things last time,
Yeah,
so I'm
we
sure I'm like,
did.
I don't know, I'm ready. Love conversations about trauma, unpacking it, and sharing and connecting. So
yeah,
I'm ready.
So our last interview was at the end of October.
Yeah.
Ish. So it's been a couple of weeks, and today is November 9th, and I'm saying this for the recording, but also for my brain.
Yeah, that's fair.
So why did you go back to El Salvador? Because you hadn't mentioned it when I interviewed you a couple of weeks ago. So was there a family issue?
No, I can't remember when I bought my flight, but it was actually my grandma's birthday.
Oh, good. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, she turned 96. But it was partially because I usually don't go around this time, but it's partially because she had surgery a couple months ago, and it's just been a really slow recovery process because obviously she's older and she has like a lot of
Yeah.
health problems. So, just trying to make the most of like seeing her. And my dad's going more often now, so he's like already going, and my mom was going, so I was like, okay, I'll go. And it's also a good time for flights because it was like
Yeah.
really cheap. But yeah, it was like super quick, like 5 days. Yeah, to visit her and like just spend time and stuff.
Okay. And during the last recording, you said that you normally visit her around Christmas.
Yeah, it's usually around Christmas or New Year's. I think this is the first time in a lot, like I've been there outside of that, where it's just like normal, every day, no fireworks, like that type of thing.
When's her
Yeah.
actual birthday?
October 28th. She's a Scorpio.
She is a Scorpio.
Yeah, she's definitely a Scorpio. Yeah, you're a Scorpio too, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
My birthday was also the other day.
Oh, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, literally been raised by Scorpios, and it's like my moon and rising, so I get it. Yeah.
So what did you do when you went to visit her?
So there was like a lot of us kind of staying, so there wasn't enough space, so my mom got like an Airbnb not too far away. Usually when I go there, it's a lot of like kind of visiting different places and like going to eat and stuff. But it was a combination of the weather because it rained like the first 3 days that I got there, and apparently the country was in like a state of emergency.
Because of the rain?
Yeah, they canceled school and like all of that because I think it wasn't as bad as they thought it was gonna be, but
Okay.
it was like you couldn't really do a lot.
They were expecting a hurricane or tropical
Yeah.
storm?
Yeah, I
or-
think it was like
Oh.
a tropical storm or something, but it was just rainy and windy for the first 3 days. But we just like would wake up and like go immediately. It was like 10 minutes away, my grandma's house, and go like have breakfast, hang out, like watch TV. And then mostly I would just like go if I wasn't like sitting. My grandma was mostly, she was either in her room in her bed, or if they like transferred her to the wheelchair, which is a new thing for her now. She would like sometimes be in the living room, all this stuff. So if I wasn't like hanging out with her, then I would go, I went on errands with my mom, and we would just drive around and like pick up food, or like go to Walmart and like pick up things that she needed. Like, that was majority of it. There was some like family drama in the beginning, which was like kind of a lot to just walk into immediately. But eventually, like, luckily in the middle of the week and at the end, it was like a lot lighter. I had a beach day on Friday, so that was good. What else did I do? I convinced my mom to go get a massage, so we got massages. 'Cause she needs it. Every time I go and I see my mom, I'm like, you're why I have anxiety. Like, literally, this is why. You're just like, your brain's like all the way over there, and it's like you need to be present. So yeah, with my grandma, she's hanging in there, but obviously it's just difficult, like, physically for her.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I think a lot of her personality is still in there, which is really good when she's not, like, because she's dealing with a lot of pain, but, like, there'll be times where she'll, like, crack random jokes. She's still very, it was funny to see her she's very passionate about cooking. She loves cooking, so she has someone there in the house, like, to take care of her during the day and, like, make meals and stuff like that. And she'll literally just randomly call the person over and be like, don't forget to put the chicken in this and that, and, like, go over. And then she was in a wheelchair, and she's like, can you take me to the kitchen? And I brought her to the kitchen. And then she, like, starts, like, her caretaker, she just starts giving her the list of the exact recipe and how exactly this dish needs to be made. And it was just, like, so amazing to watch. It's just, like, she's still on point with it, you know. She knows how to make her food. So
what was the dish?
Oh man, what did we eat? There was one night where we had sopa de gallina, which I think I'm gonna post a picture of it. But like, yeah, there's
on
like
Instagram.
Yes,
okay.
On the IGs. We did eat. I think. Oh my god, my brain. I know that was one of the big, but like for that, there's like so many different ingredients with like vegetables and like potatoes, chicken. So like, we also had like just chicken and rice with something else. So yeah, just giving the exact recipe. So it's like, it was really nice to see like she's still very like passionate and has her personality, even though like she's kind of like dealing with a lot physically. Yeah. So it was like a mix of different things. Yeah.
Well, during our last conversation, you talked about how much she meant to you and how your relationship with her was so tied to your visits to El Salvador too, and like the connection that you still had. So what does it mean for you now to see her aging?
Yeah, I think this time, especially after her going kind of through, I don't know, still going through this health scare, it's really made me realize like how time is really precious and like, you know, being with her. And I think there's like a part of me that wishes I asked her more questions about like her life and her background. I think in the last couple of years, she's told me more. Like, she's just, like, told me things. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, that's the story.
Like, volunteered it, you mean? Or you asked and then she would answer?
I think a mix of both.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it'll be like, oh, how did you get this scar here? And then she'll, like, tell me a whole story, how she got into, like, a fight with this girl when she was in her 20s. And I'm just like, oh, I didn't know that. And, yeah, just those little things. So I wish I did more of that, and I kind of, part of me wanted to, like, oh, what if I go and just, like, do, like, a little interview with her? But I think going this time, just seeing kind of how she was, I didn't really want to bother her with that, and I just felt like I wanted to keep it light with her, so whenever I would see her, I talked about the play that I did with you. I showed her photos of it, and she was like, oh, it looked, like, really nice.
And just for the record, because I need to get it on the recording, the play was Mi Abuela, Queen of Nightmares at the Tank, and it was directed by Fiamma Piacentini. Could you talk about the roles that you played in the play?
Yes, of course. So I played one of the ancestors. I played the cactus, I played the jaguar, and I played the teenage rebel. And I think that's all.
Many roles.
Yeah, many roles. Yeah, it was super fun. So, yeah, I showed her photos and I, like, explained to her kind of, like, a summary of it and, like, what the, you know, story was about. And I was watching, like, Caso Cerrado with her, which is, like, a very dramatic court show where it's about, like, my man, like, I think the episode that we watched together was, like, my wife, there was like a guy who was saying like, my wife thinks I'm gay, and like, it was literally just those kinds of things. I was just watching with her and like joking. I just felt like I wanted to keep it light.
Yeah.
And just kind of, cause I think she's been having trouble just emotionally, and she's been kind of frustrated and like kind of down, which is understandable. So I just like was really like trying to make her like laugh and stuff like that and smile. So yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Do you think you'll go back to visit her for Christmas or no?
I want to try. I really do. Flights do get like insane. So I'm not sure financially it's going to be feasible, which makes me sad. But if not Christmas, then my mom's going to go in January for like 2 weeks. And I think that'll be like definitely more feasible. But my dad's going for Christmas, and then my brother and my mom are going for New Year's. So like people are like visiting her more and more, which is really nice. So she's like not totally alone. Yeah, and she has her community there and like a lot of friends. I think on this visit, it definitely made me realize just like how careful people have to be out there, especially with like, I mean, it's crazy, but I think a lot of people tend to take advantage of others' kindness. And my grandma, now that she's older, she's like mentally she's pretty sound, but she's like getting like a little more forgetful. So it's like my family's kind of like getting frustrated with like, you know, they want to make sure she's safe and secure, and like people aren't like just taking things, you know.
Yeah.
But like,
do you have examples of what you mean of
Yeah, I think it mostly like comes down with like finance stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like those sort of things where like people can take advantage of older people because they're not really aware, or just like they'll make a mistake or something like that. So they're trying to be really careful with that and just making sure like, you know, someone's always with her. And it's just like when someone's coming to, it's kind of crazy how like the community knows her, because it's like, I don't know if you know the video game Animal Crossing. Sorry to change.
No, it's okay. I'm aware of it, but also for the recording, could you just, because someone could watch or listen to this in 100 years.
Okay, got Animal Crossing.
Describe what it is.
Animal Crossing is so random reference, but it's like a little game where you go and you play a villager and you build your house, and you have to like pay off your debt, and then you just have little animal neighbors, and they just like randomly come into your house, and you randomly go into their house and like talk to them, and they ask you for favors, like, oh, I would love a wallpaper for my house, or like some fruit. So I kind of compared it to that, but like the way people just would like knock on, you know, ring the doorbell, and just like it could be our friend, or, you know, you have to make sure like who's coming in, because there's like she'll have like several visitors a day. So yeah, it's just, I feel like when my family's there, it's very much kind of like they're more monitoring. Yeah. So
when you were talking about people potentially taking advantage of her, are you talking about elder scams in general, or are you referring to gang violence or some of
more so like stealing?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so often when people talk about El Salvador being dangerous, they mention the gangs.
Yeah.
And it sometimes seems like other kinds of crime that are not gang related are not mentioned.
Yeah. I think maybe, I don't know if, I feel like now the country's gone so like, there's been, I think, a lot more policing going on. Like when I was there was like so many more police around, and they have like these huge guns, and like you'll hear them talking about like, oh, we just caught these like gang members the other day. So I feel like there's a lot more emphasis on security now, which is like, I don't know, a good and a bad thing. Like obviously you want a safe community, but at the same time, like the way they're going about it, it's like not everyone can agree with.
But you mean compared to your previous visits, you don't?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What town does she live in again?
She lives in the capital right now in San Salvador. Yeah.
All right. So do you remember what neighborhood or what area?
San Jacinto. Yeah, around there.
And what does her neighborhood look like?
I mean, it's pretty. I feel like the houses are like colorful, and like the streets are like, I mean, regular roads. I think it's very small. All the houses like have like gates and stuff. The fences, but yeah, all very colorful. And she lives like right by kind of like a main road, so like it's easy to get out, and yeah, it's like pretty quiet. And then obviously, and also there's like the typical in the mornings like people selling like water or like vegetables will pass by and they'll just yell what they're selling. So that's also part of it. But yeah, otherwise it's like pretty nice. I think she knows like a lot of her neighbors, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else that you noticed about her neighborhood that was different this time besides the police presence?
I don't think so. It was pretty quiet. I mean, also the fact that I didn't really stay there long. Like now I stay in the Airbnb, so I didn't like wake up there, but we would go there and like stay there for a while and then leave.
What neighborhood was the Airbnb in?
I can't remember,
but
it was only like 10 minutes away. It's still in the capital, but it was more so kind of like near other big buildings and stuff, like those kinds of things. Hers is like more like smaller neighborhood. Yeah.
Did you have, I mean, you mentioned feeling emotional about your grandmother, of course. Were there other feelings that you had going back this time, maybe thinking about some of the topics that we mentioned in the last conversation?
Thinking about those topics from last time when I went to go visit.
Or was that really not the focus? So I should say, for the record, we talked about some of the hardships and adjustments that your parents made as immigrants. We talked about the Civil War and things that you learned doing your own research over time. We talked about how your parents raised you in ways that were progressive for where they came from, but in some ways felt very Salvadoran, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So did any feelings about any of those topics bubble up this time?
I feel like it's hard to say.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like the main focus was just like spending time with her, and like I think now that I'm older, I definitely feel like I can be more vocal when I like, and I can talk more about a situation, kind of give my input, versus when I was like kind of just one of the kids, like I would just like listen and not say anything. So I feel like I felt more comfortable being vocal when there was something like, oh, like that doesn't sound right, or like, you know, maybe she needs help with this. So, yeah, I think that was like a major difference, I guess. Trying to think what else.
Was there anything else that you noticed that was different in the city this time? Not just her neighborhood?
Yeah. Well, apparently they are hosting Miss Universe.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
This is for 2024.
No, this is this year.
Oh, it is?
This is
When
like in a
is
week.
Miss...
Like, literally.
Wow.
Yeah. I was so confused. I saw that and I was just like, oh, what is that? And they're like, oh, yeah, they're hosting it. And like, apparently they're doing so much renovation now. Literally the street to the road to the airport is usually like no lights on the street, really. Now they're like putting all of these lights on this, like, there's only so many. I think now I took more note, especially from our conversation, like of like kind of the mapping of everything, and like realizing that, you know, El Salvador and like San Salvador, like they only have like one or two main highways. So like that's why like traffic's so shitty. Yeah. And like, yeah, like going to the airport, there's usually no lights, but now that like people are coming, they want to like renovate everything. I noticed like how bad traffic was and how kind of chaotic it is. People kind of do whatever they want. And like I think what else? I mean, but they're also like, they're just like modernizing a lot of stuff, I think.
Do you know what kind of building Miss Universe is in? Is it in a stadium or a TV studio? Or?
I think it's in a hotel.
Oh, okay.
Sure, we can look it up. But I was like, what? It was like so, I don't know. I think the president is like friends with I don't know how that happened.
Did you notice any kinds of signs or billboards about
it was like, there was like definitely billboards. They're excited. Now they have like these like light posts in the middle of the road that have like the neon Salvadoran flag. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's very like prideful. So they're very excited. I definitely saw a couple of billboards with it. So that's happening.
What did you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's cool in the sense of like, oh, I really don't know how I feel about it because it's like,
Yeah.
what is this doing really for the country? Like, how is this helping people? I
Yeah.
have no idea because there's still a lot of issues that like they have. So yeah, it's kind of mixed. Like, oh, it's nice that your country, like, it's nice that like, you know, the country my parents from is being recognized on like a major platform, all this stuff. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, oh, how is this helping people? Like, what is this actually servicing? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, when there's such a high poverty rate.
Exactly.
Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep. So that's happening.
Speaking of which, you had mentioned Walmart earlier, and I didn't know. So when
did go
I
to
went
Walmart.
in 2018, I noticed plenty of American businesses,
Yeah.
but I didn't notice a Walmart. So could you
Oh,
describe?
they must have just built that then.
Well, I don't know. I also didn't go. I was only in the capital for like 2 days. I spent most of my time in the
okay.
countryside. Could you talk about how a Salvadoran Walmart is different, or is it not any different than a U.S. Walmart? Really?
I haven't been in a U.S. Walmart. I think it's better than U.S. Walmart, honestly. I mean, their McDonald's is huge. The Pizza Hut looks like a 5-star restaurant. Like, but like, yeah, Walmart. We went there to get like, because they wanted to get a bunch of my grandma's stuff, so she didn't have to like keep asking people to get her things. Since you could just have like all of her food, all of her items.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was ginormous. Like, I want to compare it to like freaking like IKEA or something or like Home Depot. But I guess that was the quickest way to just grab everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like warehouse vibes and like undergrad parking. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
exactly. So yeah, I was mostly there. I did spend some time like outside. We did drive. The last couple of days we drove out of the city and like went to like through a lot of the small towns and all that stuff. So that was like nice too. So I'm glad I got to get that experience as well again.
You mentioned going to the beach. Which beach?
Yes. So it was Friday and I had to leave that night. So we just went to Costa del Sol, which is pretty popular, I think. I don't know if you've been.
No, I haven't.
you
I've
should
really
go.
only been to El Tunco. I haven't been anywhere else.
Okay. No, you should go.
So
It's
what is
so
it like?
nice. It's so to get there, I think it's pretty far of a drive. It was like 2 hours or something from the capital. And you start driving it starts being more farmhouses and like all this stuff, more countryside. And I will say that was interesting to hear from my family that now it's very difficult for locals to get access to the beach because it'll be like there would be like one side of the road of like locals and like their stores, fronts, and all this stuff, and then on the other side it'd be a lot of like different kind of I forget what it's called, like villas or like kind of hotels where you'd have to like go in and pay for parking and then you get access to the beach. So apparently now like to get actual entrance into the beach without a car, like it's really difficult.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was kind of like the double-sided coin of that. But like we've gone to that beach so many times. So my mom knew this kind of they're called like ranchos, I think. So yeah, we went to this like little place that it's like a restaurant / beach. So it was like really nice. We got there like in the morning, so it was like no one was really there. The sand is like super dark, like black because of the volcano. I didn't swim that much. There's also, dogs just hanging out, walking around. So it was like nice last day. It was pretty hot.
Is it a surfing beach or not really?
I don't think so. I think it's
Okay.
near Surf City, though.
Okay.
I think it's near that, yeah. Which I do want to kind of visit, but my mom's like, oh, it's like very dirty there and like all that stuff. I do think like the more beaches are getting like more tourists, obviously the more like dirty they're getting. And like there was like trash like around and stuff, which is like sad to see.
Yeah. I've just noticed El Salvador popping up on all these surfing lists more recently. And I knew probably since I was a kid that El Tunco was like one of the best places to surf in the world, apparently. But I've noticed all these other beaches, I don't even know the names, popping up on these internet lists, right?
Yeah, now it's like literally Olympic surfers will go there. Yeah, it's crazy.
Why do your parents go to this beach?
Costa del Sol, I think is just like from memories. I think that's just where they've gone to like for years and years and years. So I think it's like one of their favorites because it's like I think a mix of like the local but also like quiet and peaceful. Like I don't yeah.
Was there anything else that you did on the trip that you didn't mention already?
Not again, just I think I did enjoy, even though sometimes the drives are really long, like just going through all the different little towns, that literally the towns that would start and then like 10 minutes you'd be out of them. It was very cool to just see all of those, and it was also it happened to be the Day of the Dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you must have seen altars.
Yeah, I saw altars. It was literally just like almost every town we went through, it was just lined up with colorful flowers, people like getting their flowers and stuff. There's like a main cemetery near. Sorry, I did the tapping. There's like a main cemetery in what's it called? Jardín de Recuentos or something like that. It's like one of the, I don't know, new bigger ones where my mom has her dad and I think her grandma are both buried there. But like the line to get in there was insane. Like everywhere we went, there was just lines and lines and lines. So it was like a huge deal. And like, yeah, I've never been there during that time.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, it's definitely just like, I think a moment where the community comes together and just literally just eat food. There was like food, like people were talking, but at the same time there was like a whole bunch of flowers, like people just paying their respects. So that was really interesting to see. Yeah.
Did your family set up an altar anywhere for anyone or no?
No, not this time. There was I think my grandma's, she's having a lot more friends pass away. And I think one of them passed away recently. And so I didn't go, but my aunt and my mom, or my aunt and my uncle, we kind of went to the viewing to kind of like pay their respects there. But we didn't go into the actual cemetery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was there anything about the Dia de los Muertos that surprised you? Something that you didn't realize since you had never seen it in person before?
Well, I guess just the fact, I mean, I knew it was a thing, but I just never seen it, so I didn't know how big it was. The fact that everything's closed down, like, you know, this is literally just like a way people come and connect, and just like, I mean, again, there's like so many flowers, like very cool to see all those being like sold, and like, I don't know, it seemed like, even though it's kind of, you know, it's a day that's obviously sad because you miss your family, but at the same time, it's like everyone's just coming together, which I think, again, emphasizes how important family is over there. Like, it's so important. Yeah.
How did your parents react that day? What were some of their feelings or things that they shared?
Well, my dad left before that day, so he went back to Maryland, but my mom was there, and she was just like, oh, yeah, like, look at this. Like, it's super nice. Like, everyone's, like, it gets crazy. Yeah, we usually do, I think because of traffic and, like, just timing, we couldn't do it, but usually we do go visit her her dad and her uncle. No, her grandma. I think, like, it's a couple, there's some of there. My grandfather's buried in, like, the general cemetery, I think, which is, like, a lot older, and, like, it's, like, colorful and stuff, so we do, like, would go visit them, and, like, she does get emotional, especially when, like, when she goes to visit her grandma and stuff, because she was raised by her. So, like, not this time, but, like, the last time we went, she did get, like, she, like, cried, and, like, it was emotional to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did she bring any kind of offering?
No, she brought flowers, and then and she had the boy, like, I think they usually have someone, like, walking around to clean the headstone. So she had, like, them polish it and, like, clean it off and stuff.
Like a teenager who gets paid?
Yeah, it's usually, like, a teenager. Yeah. And they usually have, like, I don't know what it is. It's, like, the black kind of ink to make it look fresher, like the stone. And they, like, brush it off, all the dirt and all that stuff. And they make it look like, you know, yeah.
And that's somebody that the visitors pay or the cemetery pays?
I'm not sure if the cemetery pays, but, like, always, like, when they do it, my mom will give them, like, something, like, we'll give them something, but there's usually, like, a couple of them walking around in there. So
is it only boys or girls too?
It's usually boys.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, I forget what they're called, but yeah, it's kind of been like every time I've gone, there's always been, like, a couple boys, like, just walking around and be like, oh, like, can I clean that, you know, headstone for you? Yeah.
You're so fortunate that you got to see that. I'm jealous. I want to go. I've actually only been once. My whole life. I don't know if we talked about it.
I think we did a little bit.
Yeah. I think we might have talked about it before I started recording last conversation. I'll have to check. But yeah, I've only been once.
Wow. I'm assuming you have a desire to go back?
Oh, yeah. I would love to, but my mom hasn't been since I was born, and she doesn't want to go.
Oh, wow.
So that complicates things, right?
Yeah, the relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful that you go as a family and that you still have family there. And that you have these traditions, right, of making family time. All right. Well, was there anything else? I wanted to focus this conversation on this visit. Oh, yes. Last time you had talked about wishing you had paid more attention to how your mother cooked certain foods, right?
Yeah.
And this time you talked about your grandmother still being very with it.
Yeah.
Remembering foods. So is that something that came up this time? Were you a little bit more observant or no?
No. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, well, now it's like my grandma can't really cook for herself anymore, so she has the caretaker do it. But I was paying attention at how specific she was and like how important it was to her. It was just funny. And like my dad was there too. He's just like, oh, listen to this. Like, this is how you cook. And like, she's very down to the detail. She's like, make sure you cut it like this. And then like, put a little bit of salt, like everything like that. So I did pay more attention to like, I feel like I'm more and more grateful just for the food, even though sometimes I will say my stomach does not agree totally, just because I'm probably not used to it.
Yeah.
But like,
is that something that you notice because you're American, that your Salvadoran family has a stronger stomach?
Yeah. For the most part, like literally, just in general, when I travel, I have to have like Pepto-Bismol nearby. But yeah, like the food there can be like kind of strong, but I was just a lot more like grateful and like really like appreciative of like all the meals. And like I absolutely love how you can just like have a man in a cart like driving by and be like, oh, I got bread, I got cheese, I got all this, and like you just go and get it. There was one time like a couple years ago when like my grandma was just like at the kitchen, we're just talking, and then she hears the guy and she's like, oh my god, the bread, and she like she got up so quick and it's just like, yes, I want bread. So I was just like, oh my god, I love that. Yeah, so it's just like more appreciative.
Aw. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to say about this visit?
No, I think, again, I'm just, like, really grateful and, like, yeah, really lucky to have, like, a family who's super close and caring. And even though, I mean, sometimes it was just, like, a lot of chaos and, like, the way they talk to each other is just constantly on, like, volume, like, 100. Like, there's no such thing as a calm, like, sincere. It's just, like, why'd you do this? Like, literally, like, yeah, especially because it's not my mom's side, it's my dad's side. But, like, they're all siblings. So, like, yeah, it's just very much that. And part of me is just like, you know, growing up differently, I'm just like, there could be better ways to solve these issues, but it's also it's just different generations. Yeah. Different generations solving things the way they know how and like approaching things they know how. But yeah, I think I felt really, every time I see my grandma, I'm like really emotional. This is actually hers. I don't know if I told you this.
No.
Yeah.
So this is a gold chain, and I'm describing it for just the audio recording since the video won't necessarily be archived for everything. So I see a gold chain, but why don't you tell me what it is?
No, it is. It literally is a gold chain, and it's just funny because there's not really like a crazy magical story behind it. I was just like, one day with my grandma, we were just there, and I was like, oh my god, I really love your necklace. She's like, oh yeah. She took it off. She's like, here, you have it. And I was just like, what? Like I didn't what? She's like, no, take it. And like she just gave it to me, and I was just like, oh my god. So I think especially with me and like her grandchildren, she's her softest, like at her softest, which I'm probably very lucky because I know like she can be very like stern and like set in her ways. But I think I'm really lucky to see that side of her. And yeah, just love her. So that's
on the note of gold, I wanted to say that my mom would always emphasize the importance of gold, right? Like the monetary value, but also the ancestral value. Like this is what the Mayans wore. This And when I had my ears pierced as a baby, I had the little gold studs.
Same.
And all of the jewelry, I mean, not that there were many pieces, but all of the jewelry that she gave to me growing up was gold.
Oh, yeah.
And she would tell me, like, when you grow up, well, one day you're going to be a lady and You need to wear gold, not silver.
Oh, wow. I think I heard something similar. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, it is valuable, I guess. Yeah. And like, yeah, when you're such a young age, I got to have the ear piercings.
Do you still have your baby earrings?
I don't know if I have the earrings, but I have the piercings,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I found out that apparently are kind of like lopsided. I didn't find that out until I got like my second piercing, and she was like, "Oh, your first piercing is like jacked up or whatever," and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's probably because I was a baby," and like when they did, I probably jumped, you know. But,
Do you know how old you were when they got your?
Like, I
ears
had to be
pierced?
no more than a year old. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I think the doctor did it, literally.
Yeah, I know my doctor
Yeah,
did it.
it's crazy.
Well, because if you go to, like a lot of American parents will take their girls to Claire's or the other shopping mall places. And there, it's usually you have to be 12 or 13. They're not going to pierce a baby's ears.
I know.
But the doctor will do it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know how they come to that. Like, oh, we got to do it. It's just a rite of passage.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably used to Latino parents doing
Yeah.
it. And maybe other cultures. I don't know. But,
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
like pretty much every Mexican and Central American I've known had the baby
Yeah.
piercings. Well,
Yeah.
girls, right?
Also, the I don't know if I talked about it when I was a baby. I had that bracelet, the ojo de. Did we talk about that? I
no,
think?
we didn't.
Oh, yeah. I noticed like in one of my pictures, I saw like a red bracelet. I saw a red bracelet on my wrist with the. What's it called?
I know it's ojo de something.
Oh, the
Is it
malo
malo
ojo?
or
Yeah,
It's like
to
evil eye.
keep away the evil eye or whatever. It's just like that's also such a. I think my grandma gave me that too when I was
Yes.
a baby because it's like you don't want someone to look at the baby wrong and like cast some bad things on it. So that was supposed to be protective.
Yeah,
I kind of wish I had it. Like
Me
I don't know
too.
where it went. Yeah.
I lost mine years ago, but the baby earrings I must have had until I was about 20.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's a long time.
then I don't know. I lost them.
Yeah, it's funny because like they gave me those, and then growing up for the most part, I hated jewelry. I did not want to wear
Oh.
earrings. I didn't want to wear any of that. It was like it wasn't until college where I got back into them. So
Wow.
kind of interesting in that way.
I wasn't allowed. I'm not kidding. I was not allowed to remove the baby earrings until I went to college.
Whoa.
I wore those earrings every day. I would only take them out to clean them.
Oh my god. Wow, they were really a part of you.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Well, they were gold, so they didn't rust.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Wow.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we'll end here.
Cool.
So, I'm sorry that your grandmother passed.
Thank
And
you.
you're talking about your Abuela in the past couple of interviews.
I was thinking about that
so-
today. I was like, that's actually crazy that we were just talking about her.
Mhm.
And I was telling you about like this necklace that she gave me and like all that stuff. And I was like, oh shit, like life comes at you fast. But yeah, literally after I went to El Salvador in like early November because it was her birthday. So she turned 96, and then literally I think like 2 weeks after I left is when it happened. So I'm definitely grateful that I got to see her, one more time. So that was true. I mean, that's truly like really lucky that I got that moment with her. And yeah, it's definitely been an emotional roller coaster, but
Yeah.
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
So you found out that she had passed away, or she was about to pass away, or what happened?
I didn't know until it already happened. Apparently, she was in the hospital for like a day and a half, but she had a lot of like health problems, and like she had a lot of like cardiovascular issues, and I think she had trouble breathing. So they took her there, and in general, she was just feeling like very weak. She didn't really eat a lot, so I just feel like all of that together just kind of is like what made it happen. But I think I found out the morning after, because it happened at like 5 a.m. I think.
Oh, okay.
So I found like my phone was on Do Not Disturb, and my mom called me a bunch of times, and eventually I think it just came through. And yeah, so she told me like as soon as I woke up, and then like basically later on was like, so like when are you getting on the next flight? And I was just like, oh shit. So I literally had to find a flight that same night. It was an overnight flight. My dad and my aunt were already there. They got there, unfortunately, literally like an hour after it happened, after she left. So she didn't have family with her, but my dad's friend, who's a doctor, was there with her, so he got to monitor her, and he was like telling my dad stuff. But yeah, so it was very quick. It was like sudden, but also like, you know, when you're 96 and like you have so many issues, like it's kind of, you gotta like prepare for it in some form, but then it actually happens. But yeah, so then took the overnight flight, and I think Friday and Saturday were like, Friday, Saturday, Sunday were like the longest days of my life. Friday, I did not sleep on the plane, so I was just like zombie mode Friday, and then like trying to sleep. All of my uncles, we all stayed at her place, and it was all my uncles together. There's 6 of them in total, and they all talk at like maximum volume no matter what, and they wake up super early, so I got no sleep. And yeah, it was just like a mix of like, there was like a lot of drama going on and like arguing and stuff, and then like emotional, like actually doing that Saturday was like the viewing, and then Sunday was the actual funeral. So it was just like a lot of things going on. People, yeah, but I think after that is when my dad's siblings were like, okay, we can't like argue like this. Like, you know, she wouldn't have wanted this. Like, let's all stick together. They still talk at maximum volume and like, you know, they're really loud. But after that, we just like spent time together and actually like did some nice things, like go out to eat. We saw the last day before I left, we saw the Nutcracker, which was very random.
How do you say the Nutcracker in Spanish?
Oh, it's dang, I can't remember. It's La Casa. It's nothing how it sounds like in English. But I'm gonna look it up really quick. But
No pressure. I was just curious if you remembered off the top of your head since you just saw it.
But we were in the Capitol just walking around, and then we went to we walked by the National Theater, and a guy selling tickets there, he like went up to he saw my dad and my aunt, and was just like, oh my god, like, hey, like apparently he grew up with them when they were like really, really young in like this, they call it the Maison is where they used to live, which is apparently like a bunch of like small apartments next to each other in one building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he knew them from there. He's like, oh, like, you know, it's good to see you. Like, come watch our show, The Nutcracker, this Friday for free. Da da da. So we're like, oh, okay. So got to see that. I was like, oh, that's nice. El Casanueces. El Casanueces.
Okay.
Nueces. El Casanueces.
Yeah, it must be Nueces.
Yeah,
that's
yeah. But yeah, so lots of up and downs, but again, grateful that I had that time with her.
What was your abuela's name?
So her name was Ana. Yeah. Ana, yeah.
How many other names did she have?
I mean, she definitely had, like, you know, like names.
Like 6 names.
Literally, like, names that changed. And I was just like, wait, what? But it's funny because we didn't call her Abuela. We called her Mama Berta.
Oh.
Yeah, her middle name was Berta. So that's just, like, how I always called her. And I never really, like, put it together that people usually say Abuela or Abuelita and stuff like that. But I'm not sure why. I guess because she was just, like, a mother figure and stuff. Yeah. But that's how I knew her, was Mama Berta. Yeah. Everyone's gonna see what a messy eater I am. That's fine.
I don't think anyone cares.
You're right.
I had considered that, like, oh, so for posterity, we're going to be eating on camera.
That's cool.
Could you tell me what the viewing was like? And what's that called? La Vela? Or is there another name for it? La Vista?
I think it... I can't remember. Wow, my mind just keeps going blank.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's at the funeral home, and they have, like, there was, like, different rooms. That was Saturday. Then I gotta do better with the Spanish, because I feel like I know it. My dad said it, now so I'm blank. But, yeah, it was Saturday in the morning. We were basically there all day, from, like, 9 to, like, no. Like 9:30 to literally like 10 at night. Like, we were there all day.
God.
Yeah.
What was your role in it? Were you just present?
I didn't. Yeah, I was just present. I didn't have a huge, like, role in a lot of stuff. I think it was mostly, like, her, you know, her children, my uncles and aunts were doing everything. But I felt like a part of me was there, just, like, was there to help, like, comfort them and just, like, be supportive. When we first got there, they let you, like, view the person beforehand, and, like, that was, like, really difficult because some of my uncles, like, didn't want to see her, and, like, pretty much the whole time until we left, I saw her at the last second. Like, I was just like, I don't want to remember her that way, all that stuff, and, like, but I did it, and it was emotional, and I don't think it ruined it for me. I don't think it added anything for me either. But, yeah, it was interesting. She was there, and, they have people send, like, you could set up flowers there, and a lot of people were sending flowers. And it's like a good amount of people showed up. I feel like at least 30 people. Yeah. So it was a mix of, like, family members and, like, friends and, like, people like that.
For a 96-year-old, that's pretty impressive because I'm sure she's had so many people that she loved pass away, right?
Exactly. No, oh yeah, definitely. Literally, I think one of her closest friends passed away, like, a couple weeks beforehand. So, yeah, a lot of her, I guess, friends that she grew up with were, like, gone. But she, like, knew a lot of the community, I think. And, like, a lot of people knew her as someone who was, like, really generous. You could just, like, come over and, like, talk to her. And, like, a lot of people, like, do ask her for help with certain things. So that was a little bit of part of the drama, too. It's just, like, you know, kind of like when someone's really elderly and, like, kind of sick, they can't really control how much they're giving away. Or, like, they're not super aware of how, like, you know. So that was sort of a thing. So, yeah. So it was just a mix of me talking to people I had never met before. And them, you know, telling me, like, how they saw her and, like, how they knew her. And at the very end, one of my uncle's friends, they did, like, a speech thing. And then my uncle was just like, okay, now we're gonna go through and talk about her family members that are here today. That was not planned. And I was there, my cousin, a few of my cousins were there, my brother was there. And they started he started calling down, like, each sibling. So, and then eventually got to us, and we were just like, oh, shit. So, I called out my brother first, and my brother, like, took me up there with him so we could talk. And, like, ended up being, like, it was emotional, and, like, we spoke from the heart and stuff, but we were, like, not ready for that.
What kind of things did you say?
Oh, man. I think, at first I was listening to everyone and what they were saying about her, and they were saying, I think there was a common thing of that she had a very, like, strong personality, and, like, she could, like, cuss somebody out, but it was mostly because she, like, loved you type thing. And that, yeah, she was, like, strong. She was like they said, a guerrera, like, someone who, you know, like, a warrior, a soldier type thing. So, when I got up there, I was, like, I could see that she was both that, but also with her grandchildren, she was, like the sweetest person ever. Like, I feel like with her, like, I know what, like, unconditional love is.
Yeah.
So that's what I said. I was like, I know she was a really strong person, and I also know that she was, like, really sweet to us, and I can't remember what else. I know I said I loved her, and that I'll miss her, and then I'll be thinking of her when I do, you know, things in my own life. And I didn't say this, but I did want to say that I want to be as strong as her, because, like, she's been through so much in her life, and, like, at the end, like, didn't really care about what other people thought of her, and, like, she was super generous at the same time, so I really admire that. Yeah.
So I've only been to 3 funerals, and 2 of them were American Catholic, and 1 was American Episcopalian. And, like, I used to go to Spanish Mass with my mom when I was a kid, but I wasn't actually raised Catholic. So I
I've never been to a Salvadoran funeral, is what I'm trying to say. So I want to know what it looks like and how it's different from an American Catholic. Was it Catholic?
Yeah. Actually, I was raised Catholic. My grandma was very Catholic.
Okay. I know you had mentioned it before, but I realized I should just be sure that it was.
No, that's helpful because I forgot that they literally held a mass like during that day too. They just had a priest come in and like do a quick like 45-minute one.
Quick.
Really, it was so quick like church express like church express type thing. Because it's usually like an hour long, but this one was like 45 minutes. So it was literally just a room and there's like a bunch of couches and this was my first kind of funeral like ever and like person that I've really close to me that I've lost. So it was my first experience with that. But yeah, it was just set up with like, you know, the coffin and then there's like a bunch of flowers and we also had photos of her that we set up, like a whole bunch of photos. And then I think in the afternoon the priest came in and just had everyone line up the chairs and then they just did mass for 45 minutes.
Do you know what kinds of flowers? Were they lilies?
It was a mix of like everything, yeah. It was a mix of a lot of stuff. It was really beautiful. And then Sunday is when we went back there to move from the funeral to the cemetery. And they took some of the flowers from there and we like followed from the funeral home to the, I think it's very similar to how people do it here when they follow the, you know, the car like slowly with the blink. Yeah, so we did that. Got to the cemetery and again they like said my dad talked to like some people, like people, just anyone who like knew her like spoke up and said some things. And then as they were putting her in the grave, there was a mariachi band playing music. That's definitely what broke me. Like I was like very much like on and off like crying, but I didn't like totally break down. But like when they were playing the music and I knew some of the songs before, so like that I feel like it broke me and like everybody else too. So that was I think the most emotional part. But that was pretty much the whole process. Yeah. And then a few days later they I don't know whose idea was it, but like we went to church at like the town where she grew up. And that was my first time going to church in like years. So
was that the one where she was baptized or confirmed?
I don't know. I don't think so. It was literally just the town where she grew up, which is Jiquilisco in Usultan. It's a really nice town. But yeah, it was just one of the churches. They just literally like said her name in the beginning and then did church like normal. So I was like, okay. But you know, respect. And then I think that same day we went to where she grew up, which was San Vicente, in El Salvador. And what did we do there? I can't even remember. I think again it was just. Oh wait, no. I lied. Okay, Jiquilisco. We just went there, I think, and we like walked around. They wanted to do like the census thing. I think apparently when someone passes, you have to tell their office or like someone like I think for the census, but. When they tried to do it, apparently a lot of the old files are just like not there anymore.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. So they were like, oh yeah, we can't do it. You have to go to like the Capitol and like get our paper, like all the certificates and stuff. So yeah.
When I went to El Salvador for the first and only time I went, one of the things I wanted to do was get my grandmother's death certificate and her birth certificate. And I wanted that information for a few family members. But I was in the capital. I didn't go to all the little small towns associated with my family. And even still, when I was there, they were saying, like, a lot of this isn't digitized or we have no record of. I was able to get her death certificate, but not her birth certificate because she was too old.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's, like, sad. I'm like, it's just gone? Like, you would think it'd be stored somewhere, but, like... Yeah, I feel like a lot of the systems there are just kind of like behind and like
for sure.
So
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean I was able to get my mom's birth certificate, I remember, but that was only because she was born in the capital, and they were saying, like, yeah, for a lot of the smaller places, they don't have anything.
Yeah, exactly.
From before the war, it's like, no.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and I think when my dad goes back, he has to go to the capital and, like, show them their certificate and, like, I don't know really the whole process, but yeah, so.
What's the name of the cemetery where she's buried?
It's they call it, the general cemetery, but, it's literally so old, I have to Google again. I keep forgetting the names. But, it's literally from, like, 1840s. It's one of the older ones, like.
Wait, it's in San Salvador? Or it's someone? Oh.
Yeah. So there's a newer one called, Jardín de Recuerdos.
Oh, okay.
I think that's
a pretty name.
Yeah, it is really, it's really pretty. It's really nice. Like, it's very, like, spacious and nature. My, great grandmother is there, along with, I think, my grandpa on my mom's side. But she was born in, I'm sorry, I'm using my phone during this, but, like, I need to have the right information. But, like, let's see.
It's interesting to see what you remember versus what.
I know.
Even from family history.
My brain
right?
selects, like, random things. Oh, but yeah, even here it says Cementerio General. Like, it's, like, a really old one, but it's, like, one that's, like, really colorful. It has a lot of, like, if you can see this photo, like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's, like, there's a lot of different kinds there. A lot of old, like, probably super old, like, politicians. But it's really colorful, and then I feel like it's more cultural, kind of. So, yeah, that's where she was buried. And that's where my grandfather has been since, like, when he passed away in the 60s.
What does she have a headstone? Or what kind of, like, monument is there?
Yeah, so that was also an ordeal.
Oh, no!
Because, yeah, it was... Have you ever seen Succession, like, on HBO?
Mm-mm.
Oh, my God, okay. Well, if you do watch it, just the chaotic of the siblings arguing over things, but, like, it was crazy because my grandpa has been buried there since the 60s, and I think...
Since the 60s?
Yeah, he died in, like, 64. Like, right before my dad was born.
You had mentioned that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's been there for a long time. And my grandma was paying for that spot because that's where she wanted to get buried. So she was paying for that, like, this whole time.
Wow.
But I think in the 80s, I don't know if you know about, like, the flooding that happened. There was, like, a flooding that happened. There's a river that, like, runs along near there. And I can't remember if it was a storm or something, but it, like, over flooded in the 80s. And a bunch of people, like, graves, like, got lost.
Oh my God.
Yeah. My mom thinks that her grandpa, my, like, great-grandfather, was, like, a part of that. So, like, you go and, like, you'll see the river and you'll see, like, little pieces of, like, headstones around.
Oh, wow.
So that area is just, like, susceptible to water damage.
God.
And, yeah, the place where my grandpa was also, like, kind of, the ground was kind of, like, sinking a little bit. Like, there's a point where we're walking around and my foot, like ankle kind of went down, and I was like, no. Yeah, so.
But his grave was still there.
Yeah, his grave was still there in, and all that. Where it happened was, like, another area of the cemetery where the flooding happened.
So what does his grave look like?
Well, now they took it down and they're gonna put it, they're both somewhere else now because of that damage, but, like, we didn't know that beforehand. Like, they literally found that out when we got there, which caused all the trauma.
Oh, okay. So the family was upset.
Yeah, because she paid for that spot, and now they're like, oh, it's, like, damaged here, like, not doing, so. But they're gonna remake it. And it's basically, like, a teal. A lot of the graves are kind of like this rectangular tiles. They're like tiles, and they're like so many different colors.
Yeah.
So I think with his, it was like a teal, light blue color, like white tile on the top, and then there's like this sort of I don't know, what's it called? It's like a cross at the end of it, but there's like a little area where you could see, like, his photo. They put a photo of him there, and, like, some flowers. So yeah, that's what it looked like, and they're gonna rebuild that in the other spot.
And will your grandmother have something that's kind of like that, or?
It's gonna be the same.
Oh, the same. Okay,
yeah.
So, like, one headstone for both of them.
Yeah, so the way they do it in El Salvador is very interesting. I found out a lot. But with so they usually put like the coffins like I guess on top of each other.
Yeah.
The thing is, this was also very interesting and unexpected, is that they had already dug the hole, and my grandfather's coffin was not there anymore because it disintegrated. However, there was bones.
Okay.
So they basically moved the bones from that space, and they in the new spot they kind of like it's interesting. So they dig a hole, I guess, in front of the actual tile piece, and then they put the coffin in there and they slide it under.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I'm not sure what exactly what kind of marriage they had, but to my knowledge, it was not like, it was probably toxic. I think he drank a lot, and that's kind of like, he passed from that. I'm not sure what happened exactly, but his stomach or something, but it was like alcohol related. Right. So just all of that, and then at the end of the day, she still paid for it. She still wanted to be buried with him. Yeah. It was kind of funny. She would joke, and she would be like, yeah, she's like, put me down there with him, so like when he fucks around, I'll kick him or something.
Oh, wow.
She's like, that kind of thing. So I was like, wow. Yeah, I don't know.
So I did go to one cemetery when I was there, and it was because I wanted to see if my grandmother's grave was still around. So she killed herself in 1980, and that was something that my mom never told me, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to find the death certificate to see what it said on it. So my uncle, who was raised as my mother's full-blooded brother, but she found out later that they were half siblings, that they had different fathers, told my little sibling in 2016 how our grandmother actually died, because we were always told, oh, she died in a bus accident.
Oh, wow.
And when I was about 13, I remember asking my dad, is that really what happened? And we were on a canoe, we're in the middle of the Potomac River, and he said, is that what your mother told you? And I said, yeah, but I don't believe it. And he said, well, if that's what she told you.
Oh my God.
And he refused to say anything else. So for more than a decade after that, I still didn't know. And we just don't have like that kind of direct connection, right? Because she would see it as very disrespectful for me to question something like that. If she says this is how it was, this is what happened, then I'm supposed to take it at face value, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wrote Mi Abuela, Queen of Nightmares, is because I came to find out about my grandmother's death. And but anyway, so I went to the cemetery wanting to find that grave because I wanted to have some kind of something. I have this one photograph that I got from my mother's cousin when I was down there, and that's, old-fashioned paper photograph, and I have her death certificate, but I wanted something that made me feel more physically close to her. Yeah. But she's not at either of the main cemeteries that you mentioned. She was buried at a pauper's cemetery. Okay. So her grave wasn't even there anymore.
Oh, God.
And they were telling me, anyone who was buried during the war at a cemetery like this, none of that is going to be around anymore. That's all in the earth, but we don't have markings for anything. Yeah. So, it was disappointing. There were all the newer graves, and they were in the photo that you showed me, lots of teal and blue and some reds and oranges, just really beautiful colors. But otherwise, angels and crosses.
Yeah, definitely a lot of crosses. The most religious country ever.
Yeah, it's a very, very conservative Catholic country.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry you couldn't find the headstone. I think I also have, my grandfather's, there's so many of them that I don't know if they lose track or they just don't really take care of them. And then there's a whole thing about like money. It's like if you don't pay for your spot, they'll put you in like a common grave or something. Like it's insane. Yeah.
God. Well, I think you're like I know I mentioned it a little bit during the last recording, but I envy the relationship that you had with your grandmother. I think it's beautiful that you got to know her.
Yeah, I'm super lucky because I know it's really just I got the chance, and I didn't live with her or anything, but she would, like I said, visit in the summer, and again, I feel like with her, I know what that like really like love feel like that sweet love feels like. So I feel really grateful and like lucky for that.
How do you want future generations to, like, what would you want them to know about that kind of relationship between a granddaughter and a grandmother who are from different countries, who have this common culture, but you're still, like, you're Americanized, you're diaspora, right? Like, so what would you want other people to know about that kind of relationship?
Yeah, it's interesting because, we come from two totally different worlds, kind of. And I think, I never really I think it was more with her children that she kind of like, what's it called? So, like, hit heads, butt heads with, whatever. Butt heads with a lot. So we just had like a different kind of relationship, and I think I was just, I don't know. I feel like in that relationship, you just learn to appreciate all like of the little things that you had together that like, a lot of people may not have, and like really appreciate them. Like growing up, we were at her house and I found like a storybook that I drew for her. It was called like it was like Ma Berta and me go like vamos a la playa or something.
That's adorable.
And it was just like 4 pages of that. So like I feel like I remember like we spent like I drew a lot when I was younger, but like I remember she was teaching me and my brother a little bit of how to like write in Spanish, and like she would also like play with me when I was younger. So I think it was just about like cherishing all those small things. And still kind of, I do wish I like asked her more about like her history and all that stuff. I feel like I think I might have told you like towards the end of her life is when I started to find out more and like questioning more sort of thing. So I feel like with those kinds of relationships, I feel like, future generations, they should just find out. Like, I think it's so important to like want to question and like find out about your family's history and like how they went through different things, because they went through a lot of like traumatic shit. So I think that's what we need to do. That's what I think future generations should do.
Do you have a favorite story of hers that she told you?
Stories of her?
Yeah.
In general?
Or maybe it's like a folk tale. I don't know.
A folk tale?
It could be from her life or any other kind of story she might have told you. Or something about your family.
Yeah, she had a ton of stories. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I remember it would just be like random small things. Like she told us how her experience of like seeing a train for the first time in El Salvador, and how she like saw it and was scared, like super scared. She was like, "What is that?" I remember she said that.
How old was she around that time?
I think she was
a young woman.
Probably, I don't know, maybe a teenager. Yeah, something like that. When they brought in the trains, and she said she was super scared.
What year was she born?
1928.
1928.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was also a story of how she had this scar on her lip, like across here, and growing up I never really questioned it. I like noticed it, but I never really wondered about it. And it wasn't until like a few years ago where I'm not like super sure what the story is till now.
Yeah.
And it might have been like there was this other woman who was like jealous of her and like slashed her with like a razor on her face. Yeah. Or like jealous of her and they got into a fight or something and then like she like slashed her across the lip. And then there was like another story where she was like on a bus and the bus like stopped suddenly and then she fell forward and it happened. So it was like, what is the truth? But like that's like an interesting story that I never really thought about until like a few years ago.
Wow.
And it's just like, that's what I mean. I feel like with a lot of like the older generations, they go through so much and then they'll turn it into something like possibly less like they'll try to like tone it down or something for like,
yeah.
I don't know if it's like for your protection or for, you know, all of that stuff. I feel like that's why for a lot of things I was kind of like unaware, like ignorant of a lot of things that she went through because I didn't really ask the questions or they like tried to protect me in a way. So I feel like I was like kind of ignorant in that sense. But so that's one story that I'm like not totally sure what the answer was.
Well, with what you were saying about coming up with these lesser, like less dramatic stories or less dramatic versions of things, my little sibling and I were talking recently, and yeah, we both agreed that our mom would she would make up these stories for us as a way to protect us, as you mentioned. But I think in some ways she was also trying to convince herself of things, you know, or like trying to soothe herself or soften the blow in a way.
Yeah. That
it was just more, I don't know if it was more pleasant or less painful to think of things in like she probably would have preferred that her mother died in a bus accident, you know?
I think there's so much like the idea of like just not really processing trauma or like like emotional feel like grief. Like I think that's huge. Like same thing with my grandma's stuff. There were people being like, you have to be strong, like, you know, it'll be okay, she's not in pain. And it's just like, why are you, that annoyed me so much.
Yeah.
Like, why are you telling people to be strong? Like, she just passed like 4 days ago or something. Like, let people cry, let people feel it. Like, there shouldn't be, it sucks, like, there shouldn't be, like, shame around, like, I guess, death or, like, you know, those kinds of dark things. Like, I mean, dark, but also, like, human things, like, mental health and, like, emotions and stuff like that. So,
What, do you want to share any of the specific things that people said about being strong? Or, like, was there one incident that really bothered you?
I mean, I won't be super specific, but, like, just overall, like, I was commented, like, a few times, like, I would be, like, crying or, like, about to, and then just be, like, just be strong, like, get through it, like, again, like, she's not in pain, and, like, I understand that, like, I know she's in a better place or whatever, and, like, all that, but, like, yeah, it was just kind of in the back of my head. Also, this, like, weird, like, I think some people were, like, there, but, like, kind of, like, not to show face, but just to, like, I guess show up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Sometimes it's like I didn't know a lot of the people, so it was hard to tell who was like actually like close friends with her versus like maybe an acquaintance. But yeah, I just tried to like comfort. I was just like there like with my brother mostly, just like me and him like stick together. Yeah, but it just in general, it kind of was just in the back of my head like annoyance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you notice about your brother's behavior during all of this?
We were kind of in the same boat. I think when I called him and I was just like, oh, how are you feeling? And he's just like, I'm okay. Like, it's kind of on and off or in and out type of thing. And I pretty much felt the same way where I was just like, it like didn't really hit, but then randomly it'll hit. Oh my god, I'm like burping on this interview. Oh my god, you're gonna get that in HD quality. Okay. Yeah, it was like an in and out feeling at first, and we were both like not sure if we wanted to see the casket. We didn't know if we wanted to see her. But then we both saw her, and then we both got super emotional. So I feel like we were kind of on the same like wavelength sort of thing. And I just like, I feel like for me being like the older sibling and like having gone to like therapy, and I've done so many different practices of how to like kind of like calm myself down, I guess. I'd be like, the thing I would tell people that were crying, I just told them to like breathe, like no matter if that made them cry more or less. I would tell him like breathe, and like I would tell him like, you know, let's inhale twice and like exhale kind of thing. But we were kind of like on the same level, and there was like everyone had different reactions because, you know, everyone grieves differently. But yeah.
What sort of, was there food that was served after the funeral?
There's food at the viewing. I forgot about that too. There's tamales, actually.
What kind?
I think it was chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I think that was...
Who made them? Were from a restaurant?
I don't know if they were from a restaurant, but they were like at the funeral home. I don't know if that's part of the package. I mean, there's a package to get certain things. But, like, yeah, I don't know if she had already paid, because she had already paid, like, a portion of the whole wake thing.
Oh, for her own funeral?
Yeah, she paid for a lot of it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think she got flowers, though, so we had to, like, get some flowers, and then people would send them. But, yeah, the food, I don't know if the food was, like, part of it. I think it might have been. So it was just like, there were like staff walking around, be like, oh, do you want some tamales, like coffee, tea? It was actually like a very nice service. Like the people there do a good job. So yeah, I mean, grateful for that. They were super nice and accommodating. The actual like day of the burial, there wasn't any food or anything, no.
Mm-hmm. What did most people wear?
It was, I think, a mix. It wasn't totally like all black everything. Like, I mean, I wore like a black dress and like I think a green, kind of like a light green sort of shoulder thing. And the next day I wore like a white top and like a black skirt. Mm-hmm. But I think it was like a mix, honestly, of like, my cousins wore black. Like, they were all black. Some of my uncles were black. Some of them wore like t-shirts and jeans. Like, it was like a literal mix, but I don't think there was like a strict, like, I didn't feel like there was really, or I wasn't really paying attention, but it was like semi-formal, I guess. Yeah, semi-formal event. Yeah.
Earlier you were talking about the mariachi band, and you said that they sang some songs that you recognized. Mm-hmm. What were some of the songs?
Well, I can't remember. I only can remember one now, which is the one that like hit me, and it's called like Tus Ojos. It's a really beautiful song. It has like a really light like guitar string in the beginning. And I feel like I don't even fully understand what they say in the song besides saying Tus Ojos. But I know my grandma like really loved like love songs, like boleros. Like apparently she would like listen to that all the time when they were growing up. But yeah, that was the one song I know that they played. Yeah, it was only a few. They weren't there the whole time. It was like maybe 3 songs. Oh. I feel like I honestly didn't even see them come in. Oh. I was like, it's just like we were all there. It's not like a huge space either, because it's a very crowded cemetery. So she's now her like grave is kind of like next to it's kind of nice. Her grave now is like next to the path, like a walkway path, instead of where the other one was, which was it was like towards the back, just like in grass, like next to a bunch of other ones. But so I was sort of like in front of it the most of the time, and then to the right of me was like the whole crowd. That's where she came through. But yeah, I feel like I just turned around and they were there. And then they played a couple songs. But yeah, I knew that was like one of her favorites. And I tried to find it on Spotify, but I don't think it's on Spotify. Maybe YouTube. Yeah.
I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, if I find it, I'll send it to you for sure. Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else about the viewing or the funeral or the rest of the trip that you want to share?
I don't know, just that it was very, again, emotionally up and down. I feel like I took so much more. I don't know when's the next time I'm gonna go to El Salvador. I my family wants me to go again in Christmas, but that was when she was there, and
right, yeah,
and
yeah.
I know I didn't buy my ticket because I was prices were kind of crazy. But nah, I'm not going. I'll just be spending it with my family in Maryland. But I feel like I took more time to appreciate just her house in general, just because she loved her space. Honestly, she loved her home. She loved cooking in it. She loved she had someone helping her in the house. But she was actually I helped my family kind of clean out her, not clean out her stuff, but just go through her things and organize things and go through anything that was old or we were gonna donate a bunch of the medication she had, and she had adult diapers and stuff, all that stuff. We had bought her a bunch of stuff before we left the last trip. We made this big trip to Walmart and got her a bunch of things so she wouldn't have to ask people to get her stuff. But so a bunch of that's getting donated. But anyway, yeah, I just feel I just appreciated her home more, just her living space.
Did she own it or she rented it?
She owned it. Yeah.
So who's gonna live there now?
I mean, it's technically now no one's gonna live there, but it's gonna be taken care of by all the children, basically, the kids. So they're gonna have someone, the person who was with her when she passed, just come and clean twice a month or something, so things don't get dusty.
But none of your uncles or aunts are moving in to there. Okay.
No. So it's kind of it's kind of sad to think about in a way. Oh, also this weird thing happened. Sorry, I just remember transition.
No, it's great. It's exciting.
When I don't know if it was a few days after, I think. So we had the funeral on Sunday, and then my mom decided to get us a beach house, kind of a few hours away, which was really nice. I feel we needed that. We saw some puppies. It was good therapy. And I think it was that night where we walked in back to the house, and going up the stairs to go into her house, we look up and there's these two little what do they call you, mourning doves or something? I think they were mourning. There was some sort of dove, but there was two of them, and they're just chilling on the. She has this kind of I think when things were rough with the gang stuff, she got a lot of fence build in front of her, barbed wire stuff. That thing, that metal thing.
Yeah. The barbed wire.
Yeah, so they were literally just like chilling on there, and we walked up and they were just watching us. They weren't scared, they were just watching. We put the light on them and they were not moving. It was so weird, and I don't know what really I believe in, but my brother was oh, that's definitely that's her and grandpa, they're literally right there. It was just crazy. And then I was Googling oh my god, what does it mean? But then her this guy that kind of fixes stuff for her came and was oh yeah, there was also doves coming for a time a little bit before she passed. And I was reading how that's also a sign when doves come. I don't know if it's mourning doves specifically, but it's a sign that someone's going to pass. So I was just whoa, that's very weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, it was very weird, but cool at the same time. They literally the two birds slept, they were there the whole night, and then they left the next day. So it's kind of this moment of being realizing that this connection that we have with people on Earth is there's so much more out there. I don't know that we don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. It felt otherworldly and it seems a spiritual moment, and I was just oh yeah, it was really nice to think of it that way.
Anytime a bird would come visit my mom, if it would hang out in the window or if she was at a park and it would come walk to her, she would always say, yeah, it's my mother visiting me.
Yeah.
Always. When I was little. Always. And even when I got older, she would still say it sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a strong belief over there, too. Yeah.
I know for her specifically, like, the patron saint in the family was Saint Francis, and that's the saint of animals.
Oh.
So she just would always feel this strong connection to animals. And
yeah. And my grandma, too, she, like, loved animals, and she especially loved birds. So that's crazy.
What did you do at the beach?
Just beach.
Have fun.
We did beach. Yeah, that night we got there and we just settled in, and there's a guy there who kind of like takes care of the house, and he was like, oh yeah, by the way, like they have dogs, and like, oh yeah, our dog just had a litter of puppies. And we told him about our son. Maybe he felt bad, and he was like, oh yeah, I could bring them out, and he literally just like brought out like 5 of them. It was so cute.
Aww.
So like I was playing with them. My dad was like holding one. My uncle. I feel like it was like another like universal moment where I was just like, we just needed this.
Yeah.
Like this soft, playful moment. And after that, I think it was pretty chill. We just like ate and like had a couple days at the beach, so that was nice. Just being by the ocean is always really relaxing for me. I feel like. And then we just headed back, and we were staying at her place for the rest of the time.
So did you, you did mention going to her church in her hometown. I wanted to ask, so you were raised Catholic, right? You had mentioned that. So I wanted to know how your parish in Maryland was different than any of the churches you've been to in El Salvador. Did you go to English or Spanish Mass or both?
It was English.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, I feel like it was a lot of the same, actually.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when I was there, I realized, and, like, my family also, like, realized, because they were, like, celebrating Thanksgiving and, like, Black Friday, and my parents were like,
families in El Salvador were celebrating.
Yeah, now it's like a holiday over there, and my parents were like, "Why? Like what? Like why are they?"
It's because so many people now have family in the United States.
I guess so.
Right?
It's like, damn, capitalism just like never.
But did you celebrate Thanksgiving down there? Because you were there.
The day of Thanksgiving, we were. I think it just so happened to be. Friday I left. I think it just so happened to be that was the day that we went to her town and like went to the church and all that stuff. Literally, it just like happened to be. I think for the most part it's the same. Just the churches there are like the one that I went to was like a little more modern, and this one was like a lot older. A lot of different, more grander, I would say, and they're like. Jesus, like
did it have a lot of gold? Or, yeah.
A lot of gold.
So much gilded stuff, and things just seemed a lot more old-fashioned. Looking, like more historical.
Yeah, I mean they were singing pretty much almost all the same. I feel like, except at the end there was someone outside giving away pastelitos. To everybody. I don't know if that's like an everyday thing, but I was like, oh,
I'll take it.
Yeah. We also went to the church. It was San Vicente, where the priest, the one that died during the war,
Romero.
Yeah. I never really knew where. Oh, that was in that's in the capital. Oh my god.
I think it was. I mean that.
I think where he's buried. We went to like the church and like. It kind of felt we were going underground and like saw that area, and that church was like way different. Like it was like circular and like again like grand, and they had like this big like kind of what's it called, like area for him, and they had like a poster next to it with like his history and like all that stuff. So I was like, oh, that was interesting. Yeah, but all the churches are like super grand and like I don't know. God with like a capital G like in your face.
What is San Vicente like? I've never been there.
You should definitely go if you get a chance.
I hope so.
Yeah.
My plan is to go back this summer. We'll see.
Yeah, yay, definitely do it. I'm trying to think. What we do? It's a lot of I'm trying to think obviously the main town area is like really busy. There's people like, you can go into a certain area to like where the market is, and it's like it's like a shaded area. You walk in, you can kind of like get lost sort of thing. But there's always people walking around selling fruit, food. I was on the hunt for empanadas, like Salvadoran empanadas.
With what kind of filling?
I do with the leche filling milk.
Nice.
Which when I think about it is like so, I don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's weird or whatever, but I've literally been obsessed with them since I was a kid. Like my parents tell me a story where we bought like a bag of like 6, and I just took them and went to a corner and just like ate them all. So that's like always been my thing. And last time I didn't find any, so this time I found some. This lady just was walking around with the bucket on her head, and she had it. And yeah, it was just like, I think very like bustling type of thing. Yeah, lots of food, like people just going to work. I realized that people there literally all go like, I think everyone like gets up at the same time at like 6 a.m. or something, and people go to work and go to school and like all of that at the same time. So it was interesting just seeing like the mix of people.
Was your grandmother's childhood home still around or no?
We didn't know where she lived. My family actually tried to figure it out when we were there. When we went to Jiquilisco, I think my oldest uncle had an idea of where the neighborhood. So we asked someone to like kind of point us in the right direction. And we went there, and like it was really small. There like a random cow like just walking in the streets. And I mean, there was a lot of houses there, and I think when my grandma was growing up, there was probably just like terrain. Like I don't think there was that many homes there, but they tried to ask some lady like about. They like try to tell her the last names, like the last name of my grandpa and all that stuff, and like they're like, oh maybe, but no, we couldn't figure out where exactly like her home was. And she left there when she was pretty young, so.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost 100
I know,
years
yeah.
ago.
But that's one of the things I wish I asked her more about was,
Yeah.
like, her childhood home and, like, growing up there and all that stuff. Because I only got, like, little tidbits and, like, random stories. So it was cool to be there and try to imagine, like, oh, she was here when she was, like, a kid, like, a baby.
Yeah. Do you have any photos of her from when she was little? Or even as a teenager?
Not with me, but
But have you seen them?
Oh, I think the youngest I might have seen her is maybe as a late teenagers, early 20s possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think when she had like my oldest uncle, I think she was like kind of on the younger side. But that's kind of the youngest, so I don't think she has any child photos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to chew.
You're good.
I'm trying to swallow.
This is interviews and food. I like barely. Oh.
I know. Well, you were the one talking most of the time.
Yeah.
I ate like 3/4 of the thing.
That was so good. I'm trying to think of anything else significant that happened, but. Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to focus. Originally my plan was not to focus the interview on this topic, but then it happened. But
and that was like the whole thing.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean, it happened, so I feel like since we are meeting at this time, it makes sense to talk about it, and it's something that, who knows, in 6 months or a year or 10 years from now, you might want to remember, and it can be hard to remember those details.
Definitely.
Later on. No, originally my plan for the third interview was for us to have like typical cuisine and to talk about memories of food and what the different foods meant to us. And I wanted to ask you, questions about like having the empanadas de leche and those kinds of memories, just being in the corner eating it. But I think that's for another time. So was there anything else you wanted to say about your grandmother or about the trip or anything? You would want other people to know, to think about.
I think we covered a lot, like most of it.
Yeah.
We covered pretty much everything.
Wait, how many days were you there again? Because I think we talked about
maybe
it before
9.
recording. Okay.
Because
9 days.
I was there from there overnight. There like Friday all the way up to Saturday. Oh, it's like 8 days, I guess. Yeah.
Was that your longest visit or no?
In a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember being there that long in a long time. Well, I think again at the end of the day, just make the most that you have with people that are around you, and you never know what people have gone through.
Yeah.
So it's always, I feel like, nice to ask if they're willing to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It's like it was very mixed, because I feel like while I was there, I was grateful that I was there with my family. But then, like, I know, like, 5 days in or something, I was like, all right, I need, like, my space. Like, my form of communication and the way I talk to people is different, how they handle things, and, like, all of that stuff.
Yeah. Where were you sleeping?
Me and my brother were actually sharing a bed. Yeah, and, like, some people, they also brought out, we switched, kind of, and then we went to, like, the mattresses, because my grandma's house has it actually has like 4 bedrooms, I think. So it's like her bedroom, there's a second one, and then there's 2 more. So yeah, it was like a full house. Yeah. And then so the rooms were taken, and then there was like 3 mattresses on the floor. So yeah, it was a full, and like also the second bedroom doesn't really have it's not closed off, it's more of like a wall partition sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
So you could hear everything.
Yeah, it's not private.
Yeah, so I woke up at like 6 a.m. every day. But yeah, again, like it was a mix of a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm really grateful that, my family really like cares for each other like they do, and like as close as they are, because I know that's a rare thing, and I'm very lucky.
So do you normally say your name the English way? Or...
Yeah. Usually do. I just like, I don't know who can roll the R or not. So like, I usually just do Adriana.
But your parents, they say it the Spanish way, or
yeah.
And most of your family.
They say either my full name Adriana, or they'll say Adri.
Oh.
Yeah.
So my mom was super specific. She wanted us to be so Americanized because she rejected so much.
Yeah.
I think because of when she came and because of all this family trauma. And I found out later it wasn't just Civil War stuff, it was like dysfunctional family stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think Ash had the same sort of situation, because her name literally is like Ashley something, I can't remember, but she was like, people never assume that like she's Latin.
Well, I knew her last name was, but I kept hearing, I don't know that I heard her say Patlin, but I definitely heard other people saying Patlin, and in my head I was like, Patlan. What?
Patlan, yeah. Get it right. Yeah. Patlan.
But I mean, my mom wanted Christine. She didn't want Cristina. Her name is Lydia Cristina. But she was like, no, my babies are going to be American babies. They're going to have...
Oh, wow.
So that's why none of us have her maiden name, Sanchez. We don't have... our middle names are all... Like, mine is Sloan, which is from my dad's family. The next sibling has Antoinette. And that's named after her brother, who's Antonio, but like obviously that's not the Spanish version.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
And then the little one this is a dead name, but it was Helen Georgia. Helen for paternal and Georgia for also paternal relatives. But now, so when the little one transitioned and adopted a new name and everything, they became Valentin Sanchez Stoddard because they're like, I'm gonna
bring that back. Yeah. Revive. I like that.
And yeah, me too. I do remember though in high school when I would sometimes put Sanchez on stuff because I don't know, it was like my little quiet resistance too.
Yeah.
I need to open the window. I felt like this is weird that she doesn't want it at all, and it made me really sad and uncomfortable. And of course, she never wanted to talk about it ever. But I would put Sanchez on stuff, and still Stoddard, like of course.
Sanchez Stoddard, yeah.
And she would get mad about it. She'd be like, "That's that's my father's name. I don't talk to him anymore."
Oh,
like,
yeah,
okay.
definitely some drama.
Yeah, no, a lot of it, and
yeah.
she just saw so much of moving here, starting over, and not
letting go of literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, like a true rejection.
How old was she when she came here?
She was 26.
Oh,
so
she was like older. A little
yeah,
bit
yeah, because you said your parents came here when they were in high school.
Yeah, literally. I think my mom was 14 and my dad was 16, I guess. So they kind of, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she had been living on her own for like almost. No, what am I talking about? More than 20 years at that point because she ran away from home when she was 14.
Oh, wow.
I don't really know about her romantic life before she met my dad. I do know that she was engaged, but I think she was engaged to a European. I don't think she was engaged like someone from Europe. I don't mean just a white dude. I mean,
actual European.
Yeah, like actual European.
Wow.
I know she lived in Paris for a little bit, but she'll just drop these
I know,
things and like
literally,
no details.
Yeah, I get that. More and more, every time I see my family, they'll just trauma dump, and they'll be like, so anyway, you want some food? Like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean grandma was, like, terrified of the gay? Like, almost, like, I don't know, like, it's crazy.
I think I want a gold cloth. What's your middle name?
This one, I feel like I have to say it in Spanish because it just sounds, it's Valeria.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah, but I remember in middle school or something, someone asked me, and they're like, "Oh, your middle name's Valeria. It rhymes with malaria." And I'm like, great, thanks. Like, what? Why?
I'm gonna move.
But yeah, I feel like it sounds way better in the Spanish.
Oh yeah, no, definitely like.
And I just say it's the Spanish version of Valerie.
Yeah.
We're like, okay. But
My
malaria.
my sibling's dog is named Mariposa, and normally we'll just call it Mari, but some people, when they meet the dog for the first time, of course they don't know what that means. So, and then they don't roll their R, so then it's Mariposa, and it just doesn't sound as cute. Mariposa. Do you use henna or something on your hair?
I did just get a haircut yesterday. Oh, you mean the color?
Yeah, a little
No, it's literally like L'Oreal, like color box dye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But your natural color, what would you say?
It's like pretty close to black. Like, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but I feel like I've been dyeing it pretty consistently for like years now. So I haven't had like my natural hair in like a long time.
What are the different colors you've tried?
Mostly brown, but I was like red/violet in like 2018.
Wow, like
like a deep like
burgundy?
yeah.
Or like eggplant?
Like closer to Burgundy. It's like from here up, or where is it?
Right now I'm like doing
Okay, down.
just above your
That
boobs.
works, yeah.
Unless you want more, then I can.
No, that's good.
You're like, no.
No, we don't need to see. Yeah, it's headshot, so that works good.
Yeah, and I'll have verticals too. So what? So Ebony, you knew for what? Like how long before you started doing headshots with her?
Literally, we did the headshots like after we graduated. So
Was she in the program like all the same time as you?
yeah, literally the same. Yeah, so we were for 2 years. Sorry, I feel like I can't talk and take photos at the same time
that's okay.
because
That's okay.
I have like I don't know, my face muscles are like extra. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Why don't
I
we
guess
have
so.
somewhere you're looking at that tree?
Tree?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The tree print on the wall. Could you look at me just with your eyes?
Oh, yes.
What are your parents' hair like? Like the texture?
I'd say my mom's is definitely wavy. It's like thick, I guess. Like a lot of hair, and then my dad's is very wavy. He's growing it out right now. My mom hates it.
Why?
Because it's long, but he doesn't like. It's not like he doesn't wash his hair. He just
Doesn't
he
take
could
super
yeah
good care of
exactly.
it.
He's literally just growing it out to grow it out, and she's like, I don't like it. It's just like it looks like.
Is he wearing it in a ponytail or it's not that long yet?
No, he can't. It's definitely like shoulder length, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think his is like a little bit longer than mine is now, but his hair's like very wavy, and sometimes he'll put it in like a little bun. But yeah.
Okay. If you look at the shoulder.
Fair.
Could you turn, so keep your shoulders the same, but turn your head a little bit toward that shoulder? Yeah, and look down slightly, and look like here with your eyes. Yeah, there. And smile a little or a lot. Okay, look at me with your eyes. Okay, good. I know you mentioned the gold chain as being
Yeah, I
a
have that one
gift.
in my pocket. Yeah.
Do you want to wear that?
I feel like it ain't really. It kind of.
With the hall.
Yeah.
thing?
It was like yeah. But,
Do you have other jewelry that your family's given you that's like meaningful? Not really.
Nothing that I wear constantly. Constantly. Yeah, that sounds rude. But
No, I think like
I think I've gotten like a bracelet, maybe a bracelet or something like for Christmas. I don't know, not like a super expensive like, but like I think this necklace is literally like probably the most like high quality one that I have.
yeah.
But maybe like small stuff. But yeah, a lot of it, if I don't have it here, it's like back in Maryland in my
Yeah.
old room.
Are there other kinds of poses that you want? Do you like? I feel like we have good coverage.
Yeah,
with
for sure.
This kind of shot.
Yeah.
But if you, I mean, you could change your top. We could get some of you if you wanted like full body or sitting or anything like that.
We can do sitting.
I personally never have the sauces, but they're here.
I usually, yeah. What is this called again?
The curtido is
Curtido,
the
yeah.
cabbage.
Yeah.
Does it have the cabbage or is that just onions?
I can't tell. I think it's cabbage.
Yeah, I think it is curtido,
Yeah.
but the one my mom makes normally has more of the carrots.
Interesting.
Thank you. Yeah. I never remember what all the cheeses are called. So
Oh
it's
no,
like
me neither. I know there's like a
cheese.
There's like a really soft white cheese.
Mhm.
Then there's like a hard cheese that smells funny. Then there's the vaca, the one with the cow, it's like the yellowish one, and has the the yellow cow on it. That one's my favorite, I think.
Yeah, but I really don't know what any of them are called. So this is the loroco. What do you think about loroco?
I like it. It's not my favorite. I think I'm definitely like I would just always do cheese or like frijoles.
Yeah.
One, but both good.
I wanted to order the loroco because my mom always makes it, and when I was little I didn't like it, but now I like it.
I like it.
Do you want the food heated, or is this okay?
No, it's good.
Okay.
Well, if I just started eating with like the fork and the spoon, you'd be like, this documentary's canceled. So like,
Oh, I was gonna get bowls for the soup.
mm.
I was like, why do I have spoons? Oh yeah. Have them
Pretty good.
on hand for that time. I don't have smaller bowls. So. Oh, here's the menu.
This is pretty good.
Is that the revuelta, or what is that? Or
What?
is it just pork?
I think it's just pork.
Okay.
How's yours?
That's good.
Yeah. Right, the way my grandma would made it literally was like the whole, like, you rip it and it's literally like stretched. It was forever.
Yeah, that's my complaint. There's not enough cheese.
Yeah. Put more cheese. It was like a little dry, but still tasty. A napkin.
Thank you. I'm just gonna put some here on the sofa.
I feel like a food blogger.
Alright, this is just plain tortilla. My mom used to put fried eggs on everything when I was a kid, or at least
Oh,
it felt
really?
that way. It's just like,
Did you get sick of eggs?
kind of. I don't know. There are things that would maybe not bug me exactly, but just things I didn't love as a kid that I've come to appreciate
Yeah.
more, or at least understand more.
The corrido's like sweet. Which is different. It's good though.
I guess I'll have some.
But again, it's not like, I feel like 'cause it's usually sour, really, right?
I don't know what part of the country this is from either. I don't know anything about this restaurant.
Just El Salvador. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, just El Salvador restaurant. Oh, I did ask if they had the empanadas de leche because I remember you talking about that during the last interview, and they said no, they don't have any kind.
Tragic.
But I did remember you talking about the sopa de gallina.
Oh yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why I ordered it.
Nice.
See your
Have you had it before in a while? Or?
I don't think I've had it since probably my teens.
Oh wow. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah. It's good, like, comfort food, I think.
When I went to El Salvador for the first time, only time, I did this artist residency, and my school was paying for everything, right? This is not me paying for stuff. But the residency had this cook, and she would make food, all 3 meals for me every day. And I cannot tell you, I realized so many things that I thought were my mother's original creations were just like typical Salvador food.
True, yeah, I can definitely understand that. Like, what kinds of stuff?
These, I don't know, well, let me see what they call them on here.
What's this again? This is, oh, this is just chicken meat. Okay. Yeah, chicken.
It's just chicken? Oh, they don't even mention chicken in this thing.
Yeah, this is literally like a platter of different. Oh, this is like carne.
Yeah, that should be. And then, oh, that would be the chorizo.
Yeah. Plantains.
I don't see the name here, but basically it was like some kind of shrimp with red sauce.
Oh, okay.
So I guess the name is like camarones con salsa.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But
Yeah.
I feel like it had maybe some more specific word in there. But she would make that when I was a kid, and I loved it. I had no idea that's such a big dish. I just thought it was, she came up with this red sauce. For the shrimp.
I'm trying to think if I've had that.
Yeah, but this style of the chicken soup she would always make when we got sick, or just when it was cold, which was a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely like kind of appreciate it more now. I've like, I mean, there's a I think a Mexican restaurant near where I live that also has kind of the same thing, and like it really tastes like how like my grandma or like how I'm pretty sure my mom has made it too. It's a really hearty soup.
Would your mom or grandma ever make tripe soup?
I don't know. I don't think so. Wait, tripe soup has.
I mean, I feel like it's basically this, but with tripe. Or what about different kinds of organ meat? Like, would you?
Isn't there one called like pata something?
I haven't had it.
Or like res?
It's cow feet?
No,
Or
cow
cow?
or like pork or something.
Oh, okay.
I think sopa de res is one that I've had.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm really bad with the names.
But that's just beef in it, right? It's
yeah,
not
one
like...
is just like has more meat and it's like kind of red.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, the big thing she would make for us that I always knew, okay, that's Salvadoran, was pupusas.
Oh, yeah.
And she would make chorizo, and she would make, she always
chorizo.
made the yuca frita, and, and beans, like, we always had beans on the stove.
Oh, yeah.
She always had some big pot of beans.
100%. And we're like, what is there food at home or whatever? She's like, oh, there's frijoles. And guess what? Like, you can eat that leftovers for like a while.
For days.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom would try to do like, we call it like 7-day breakfast, where we literally have like, frijoles, plátanos, crema, and like French bread, like the baguette, like bread to eat with it. So good. Yeah, I'm like obsessed with crema. It's like weird. It's very weird. I'm like, I've never thought I would like, because some people are probably like, oh, that's like a weird texture, like thing, like putting cream and like beans together.
No, it's so good.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I talked about the fried egg earlier.
Yeah.
My mom for school lunches would make fried egg on top of rice and beans. I remember getting made fun of
Oh my god.
by the other kids so much. Like, those things don't go together.
Was there a lot of Salvadoran
No,
kids?
there's nobody. There were like no. No, my mom was confused for the nanny. This is how white my school was. There really were almost no immigrant parents.
Oh wow.
So when, let's see, from second and third grade, there was a Japanese girl. Her parents were from Japan. She was from Japan, and they were there because the dad had some kind of government assignment. And then they moved they moved back to Japan after third grade. And I remember being so sad because her mom stood out too, right? So it felt like we
immigrant
could
family.
connect that way.
Yeah.
And God, who else? We had one black boy, but like he was African American, not African or Caribbean or anything like that. And he was there.
Wow.
Not the whole time. I think he moved away in 3rd grade.
Wow. It sounds like, though, you can literally count them on, like,
Oh,
one
yeah,
hand.
no.
Like, that's insane.
So my mom would make friends with the nannies. Because, or the military wives, but not, like, fancy military. I mean, like, army wives who you could tell they were used to living on a budget. They weren't going to the Alps for Christmas. You know?
The Alps.
Like some of the
mountains.
Some of the families.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think I got really lucky with my elementary school
Yeah.
in Silver Spring. It was very. I actually feel like I was surrounded by a lot of different cultures, and like there were white kids too, but like I don't think that many. I feel like the white kids I could probably count maybe on my 2 hands.
For your grade or for the whole school?
Oh, for now I can't really remember, but like maybe for my grade. It was a good. There was a lot of immigrants though.
We lived over by the Washington Golf and Country Club, so that explains a
The
lot.
Golf Country Club.
A lot of why it was like that. So our mom would take us to this park in Ballston, so it's like a 15-minute drive from the house, and we go there after school. Have whatever you want, and then there's tortillas and there's rice. Yeah, it looks like there's more rice. Yeah, so she would take us to Quincy Park in Ballston, which is the center of Arlington. It's a dividing point. So North Arlington, when I was growing up, was super white, and South Arlington had way more immigrants and also the African-American neighborhoods. Like 2 of them at that time. And it's changed a lot. Like basically once Obama was elected and all these millennials from across the country moved to Arlington, it really did transform. So a lot of what I remember doesn't apply today. But we would go to Quincy Park in Ballston, and that's where we had all the different international friends. And we connected with this one Mexican family and played soccer with them, go over to their place for dinner, just hang out as a family. And there was a Bolivian family, same thing, an Egyptian family, same thing. And then there were some kids whose, like, their families wouldn't come, they would just hang out at the park by themselves, but my mom would always include them. Like, if they wanted to play soccer with us, or if they wanted to eat with us, she would include them.
Aww.
But I love going to the park because everyone else's mom was from somewhere else.
Yeah. Much more, like, comfortable. You just feel comfortable.
Yeah, I remember, like, being so embarrassed about her accent, and I hate that I felt that way as a little kid.
Yeah. I used to be, like, very, like, I didn't like my name, like, my whole name together. I don't know why in my brain I was like, I don't like it. Like, it sounds like for some reason I said it sounds like a medical, like, doctor's there. Like, just very, I couldn't really pinpoint it, but looking back, I'm like, oh, I was, like, not liking it because it sounded, like, ethnic. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. But people the kids ask about like your mom's accent or like.
Oh yeah, and they always thought she was Mexican. Like until, I mean, there were kids. I wasn't the most popular kid. So the close friends knew, her mom isn't Mexican. But if you had asked them where she was from, I swear, like 2 kids would have been able to tell you. Most of them had no idea. No, but my dad was just not around a lot. I mean, he was a good dad for the most part. Yeah, no, awesome. But he was constantly working because he was a journalist for the news. He was a cameraman.
Oh, cool.
And he worked on documentaries too. And my mom was a housewife, so she was the one who was really, thank you, like, there with us at school, picking us up from school, that kind of thing, dropping us off. So the people at school, the other parents and the teachers, didn't necessarily know who my dad was.
Sorry.
What's up?
Like a tiny piece of cheese
that's
just
okay.
like rolled off.
That's why we have the blanket.
And kept rolling.
the blanket
Smart.
keeps everything
I didn't want to leave a piece of
relatively
random
clean.
cheese.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
No, it's okay. So so people at school didn't necessarily know who my dad was, and he wouldn't come to a lot of events because he just worked all the time, and his work hours were super unpredictable. So yeah, when people did meet him, they were always so confused.
Like, who is this? Yeah. Kids' brains are just like, what? This doesn't make sense.
Well, that happens with a lot of kids who are mixed race, right?
Is your dad like dark hair or light haired or?
So now his hair is like, well, now it's gray. But when I was growing up, it was light brown, but it had been blonde. Like when he was a child, he was a towhead, and he has blue eyes, and he's very pale, very, very light. Like that is a white guy.
White man. That is a white man. Yeah. Caucasian.
Like very pink.
Okay, gotcha.
But my mom isn't dark. I mean, she's like yellow, olive
Yeah.
tone, so that explains me, right?
Yeah, I think it's the same as my mom, skin tone wise.
How tall are your parents?
My mom is 5'2", and my dad is 5'11" or 6 feet, which is like
He's tall.
he's tall for a Salvadoran man,
Yeah.
honestly. Because you go there and I'm literally the same height, or they're shorter than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They tell me like random stories about how that happens. Cause I think I told you he has like there's 6 of them all together. And I'm pretty sure he's like he's the tallest one, and he's the youngest.
Wow.
And they say it's because they gave him a lot of vitamins when he was, or like, growing up, and like, yeah, I don't know what it was.
Wow.
Random genes came through. But I think my grandma was also sort of like not short. Like,
Oh, okay.
when I knew her, I think she was starting like, she slowly like smaller and
Yeah,
smaller,
of course.
but she was like,
a tortilla.
damn, I should have. Yeah, I'll take one.
Do you want
I
any rice?
usually do it with the beans.
Is there no more?
Have you heard of mamaso?
What's that?
It's literally, I don't know if that's something my mom made up or it's actually, but it's literally just tortilla and cheese and maybe crema together, and you just put it
Oh,
in
that
a
sounds
mush.
great.
Yeah. Mamaso. Yeah. I don't know if that's like a
No.
real name or not.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It could be real, and my mom just never called it that.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing.
Let me see if it's...
It's probably not. It's like a very random snack. It's literally just mush. Cheese and tortilla mush.
Yeah, they didn't have...
I highly doubt it.
They didn't have... Oh, wait. Here, I was trying to see... Okay. So they call the shrimp and tomato sauce camarones entomatados.
Okay.
So that's what I thought was shrimp and red sauce.
Yeah.
But, okay. So she would make that. There wasn't really anything that I was dying for that wasn't on this menu, or that I was surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of surprised that they didn't have any kind of empanada.
I would have been elated. Empanadas. That hits like my core, for sure.
Where do you get them around here, or not?
I've never had them around here. I've literally only had them, either my grandma's made them or in El Salvador.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I feel like I got sidetracked. Oh, my grandma, I think she was like 5'7" actually. Back in her,
That is tall.
back in the, yeah.
Yeah, my mom's 5'1.5", and she claims that half. She really does. She's like, I'm almost 5'2".
Aw.
And then my dad is 6'3".
Oh, wow, okay.
I mean, now he's probably more like 6'2" because he's older and shrinking, but when I was a kid.
Okay,
6'3".
so you're tall also, though.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So that's what I feel like. That's why also I'm not like tall, but I'm not like short.
Especially I feel like for most Salvadorans, they're like on the shorter side.
My mother's brother and I are the same height. He might even be a little bit shorter. Especially now that he's older. But I haven't seen him in a long time. And because my mom and him stopped talking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's the one, that's the brother, the uncle, who told my little sibling about how our grandmother killed herself. And it was, I think it was less than a year after that my mom stopped talking to him.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like that had to be one of the reasons.
Yeah. Probably.
But I know there was other drama.
Yeah, there's always something. Like, it's just, it's kind of crazy. Because at one side you're like, oh, you guys should just talk it out, and like, you know, but I feel like those kinds of issues are just so deeply rooted, and like, it's just like hard that they just rather just like cut off communication. Because I think I don't know about my mom, but my grandma on my mom's side definitely, she has like a bunch of siblings that she like doesn't talk to or like, you know, just doesn't really get along with.
Well, I know some of the tension between them goes back to childhood, and then some of it is more recent, or more like adult problems. So the childhood stuff is they're half siblings, and my uncle is brown. Like he just looks way more indigenous, and my mom's just more Spanish looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would get treated very differently because of that. And
Yeah.
even within the family, he would get treated differently because of that. And, yeah, to this day, you ask him, or I should say, within the last time I talked to him, he would always say, I'm an Indian. And he would just identify indigenously.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's mixed, like everyone in the family is mixed, but maybe we don't know who his father was, so there's that.
Well, I'm always really, I like want to learn more about that, like, I just want to go back and like find out exactly like which indigenous, like, you know, because I think there's like the group, like the Bibiles, like I want to like, I think my dad's side, my grandma, the one that passed away, she was definitely like a little like, you know, like browner skinned, and I think that side's like more indigenous than my mom's side, and just like I wish there was more like history that they recorded, or like, you know, it'd be so cool to like learn more about that, and like just following, I don't know, do some ancestry.com shit, and like just like find out who her mom was and her mom was and her mom was.
And it is very similar to how she made a...
Yeah. It's got that nice, like, oily flavor.
Is this how your family makes it? Or?
I think pretty much the same, yeah. There's, like, maybe subtle differences that some people do, but no, this is pretty on point. Good job, El Salvador restaurant.
I still can't get over that name.
I know. I'm like, you really couldn't think of anything else.
Well, it seems like a lot of them will choose either a woman's name, like someone's mother or grandmother, or they choose a place, like a town, a state, a department, whatever.
I guess there's not a lot of Salvadoran restaurants, so they're like, we're going to be the Salvadoran restaurant. Yeah, this is like perfect for like a cold winter day.
Yeah. What would your mom do when you got sick as a kid?
For food, she would, I think soup. She would do like, she would get the, I forgot what they're called. It's not chicken noodle soup, but it's like kind of like similar, adjacent to that. The really thin noodles with like the broth that it like, just kind of like that. Which I'm sure she got from like Safeway or something, right? Like grocery store. I don't know. My mom. It depends also what we had. She's definitely done when I've had like me and my brother have had like congestion issues. I'm talking about this while we eat. But I've definitely done like the neti pot thing.
Oh, okay.
She's definitely put like a boiling bowl of water and like forced us to like put our face over it and put a towel over it. Even though we didn't like it. Yeah, she's very like caring though when it comes to that. Which is nice. She is a little bit too like, I think like reliant on medicine though. Like I feel like every small thing she's like, oh god, this and that, and I'm just like, damn, I think my body like hasn't like, I feel like my body probably just like gave up when I was like 12. I'm like, I need medication for like everything.
I feel like my immune system can do some of this.
Literally, yeah. Some people are like, oh, I'm gonna hold off on medicine, I don't need it, and I'm like, I can't. I'm like, give me the drugs.
Yeah, my mom was definitely the opposite. She would try and cure us with food and teas and...
Yeah. I mean, there's always, tea, Vivaporu. Can't go wrong with that. Rub it on the chest.
Yeah.
That was more of my grandma, though, I feel like, than my mom. Oh my god, have you ever had, I don't even know the real name, but my grandma called it elixir. Elixir? It was literally like a green medicine.
No, I
and
don't
it
think
tasted terrible.
And is it a Salvadoran brand or what?
It might have been
Mexican.
I don't. Maybe I ought to Google it, but literally I only had it like at my aunt's house, and my grandma would stay at my aunt's house when she visited. And I remember her voice, the way she said it too. She's like, "Oh, get us elixir," like that, literally. And I, as a child, had no idea what it was. I just drank it, but it was literally it was so gross. It was like worse than like NyQuil. Like.
No, we use NyQuil. Or like the drugstore brand of NyQuil. The CVS everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or Safeway stuff.
Yeah. I gotta look that up actually. Cause I don't know if it was like a random.
Like some cheapo kind of thing. You're like, how do I spell that?
Yeah, literally. Just put Lixir. Oh, that'll be for later today.
And it was elixir, not elixir?
Like it might have been. When she said it, it sounded like elixir, but maybe it was elixir.
Oh,
but doesn't that mean just like
elixir?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which is like a general. That's why I'm like, I don't know what the hell I was taking.
No, so this is also something, again, like I didn't find out until I was older, but because my mother's mother had been a drug addict, she was very scared of us taking any kind of pills, medications. So I got my period when I was 11, and she didn't even let me take ibuprofen. I wasn't allowed to take any painkillers.
Oh my god.
So I swear, even in high school, I would take them just when I really felt horrible, when the cramps were really bad. And it wasn't until I was in college that the campus doctor said, you should really be taking painkillers every day of your period.
Oh, wow.
You'll be fine. Just don't take more than what the bottle says.
That's crazy. I mean, I guess you just start, like, I guess when you're younger, you're just kind of like, okay, like, mom knows best, I just gotta do that, but then it's like,
I didn't do enough questioning, but I try to be gentle.
My cramps were so bad. I definitely had days where I would just, I think more so
Well, maybe in high school too, but literally just laying in the shower, like on the floor, just like having hot water hit me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was weird. That's pretty good.
What would you say is your mom's specialty when it comes to cooking?
Ooh. I don't know, she makes like good everything.
What's one of your favorite things she makes?
Trying to think. I'm going in my head through all the dinners so like I can remember. She actually made really good like beef stew. Like the potatoes and like the meat, like it was all very tender and like really good. It'd be that sometimes with rice.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, that's good. She didn't. For like Salvadoran stuff, she only made like that breakfast that I told you about.
Oh.
Like she didn't really. I think she tried to make pupusas once.
They're so labor intensive.
Yeah. I mean, she makes tortillas and like stuff like that, but like, I think the beans, plantains, like, that was kind of it. So it wasn't like I didn't have a lot of pupusas, and then like, I don't think she knows how to make empanadas.
Those are also labor intensive.
Literally all the labor stuff. But
what about your dad? Does he cook?
No.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. He learned a little bit when my mom, she fractured her ankle.
I was about to say, your mother got sickly injured.
Sickly injured. You know what? Moms are like, even though she's like, you know, obsessed with, I mean, like medication, like all this stuff, she will literally, left to work one morning and literally like kind of tripped and like hurt her ankle, and she just went to work through she went throughout the day, and then she went to the doctor and they're like, oh yeah, you fractured your ankle.
Oh my god.
Like, how are you still walking? And she had to get like a little mini scooter to like put her leg on. So that's when my dad had to learn something. But yeah, no. I think he maybe retained some information, but no. It was always my mom. Yeah, I think that she made really good like pastas and stuff. I think she did like a range. What about you?
Definitely pupusas. I feel like, yeah, and those were just so special and different. And we did go to this Salvadoran restaurant when I was a kid called Mahawal, and that's in Falls Church, like Bailey's Crossroads area. We would go there like every month or two, but it was a little bit of a drive. It was probably like almost a 30-minute drive, and that was closer to that park I mentioned. It was in that direction. Yeah, so having, I don't know, it just seems like pupusas were this magical thing that my weird Salvadoran mom made.
Was it like weekly, or was it like more often than weekly?
She would.
Because I guess you could make a bunch and you just have a
She
over.
would.
Yeah.
I think that was more the situation. She probably made them every couple of weeks and then freeze some of them so that we'd have them forever.
Yeah.
Rice and beans. Even when I would get tired of rice and beans, I still loved them.
Yeah.
I had that like almost every single day with something, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I was really little, I would not want the casamiento because I wouldn't want to mix the different foods. And then when, I don't know, she just got me to mix my rice and beans, and now I often prefer it that way.
Yeah.
Unless I'm already having a lot of meat, then I might not have so many beans or any beans. Do you want any of this?
I'm actually
full.
full.
Yeah, I know. I'm so full.
It's like it inhaled it.
But plantains, I loved when she would make plantains. I would love
so good.
yuca.
Plantains are also like these that we had, I feel like they were a little bit drier and like stiffer.
Yeah, they were drier.
Did your mom make them more like moist? And,
Yeah,
like,
yes.
really like
yeah.
those
they were,
are so
they were
good.
oilier,
Like,
they were
juicy.
juicier.
Yeah.
These ones I wasn't a huge fan of. That would be my critique.
Oh.
I would say, honestly, that was probably my biggest disappointment of this meal.
The plantains, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like
I wanted them juicy.
I feel like it's hard to find the juicy plantains. I feel like the most of them I've had around. Well, I haven't had that many, but I feel like they're always like kind of like more on the stiffer end.
Yeah.
But yeah. Docked you some points.
Mm-hmm. And what else? Well, there were those camarones that I mentioned earlier. She would make these. Well, she wouldn't. I mean, she would buy these different Salvadoran sausages and cook them. And
Yeah.
I always loved those.
Yeah, chorizo's so good.
But I wouldn't even know what the different chorizos were called. I would just be like, okay, this
It's
is
chorizo,
chorizo.
yeah.
But she would buy different kinds.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and I always loved. I don't know. I have always loved to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pupusas always seemed like the most
number one.
special. Mhm.
Yeah.
For Salvadoran food, for like American food or Italian food. Yeah, she would make country fried steak. I mean, we lived in Virginia, so she was kind of enchanted by, even though we lived in suburban DC, she, like the Appalachian foods were so interesting to her. Like she would try, like she made, and I make these still, apple, what are they called? Fried apples.
Ooh.
Yeah, she would make apple pie from scratch, different apple dishes.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I love apple pie.
And then for Italian food, she loved to make lasagna, and that was one of my favorites. That was probably my favorite Italian dish that she made, because that's also labor intensive, right?
All the labor intensive stuff, I mean, it's worth it in the end, but.
Yeah, well, and she would make, I was telling Erin this earlier today, she would make me stand in the kitchen, all of the siblings, all of us would have to stand in the kitchen and watch, and of course we'd have like our little baby chores.
Yeah.
Like, cut this,
Yeah.
trim that, open that, but she would make us watch because she wanted us to see what would go into everything.
Yeah. Do you feel like you absorbed a lot of it?
Yeah, I still have to look things up, but I think what I've absorbed most is that I'm very resourceful. Like, I can just look in the fridge, look in the pantry, and come up with a meal.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And she was very good at doing that, just like improvising.
Yeah.
Whereas Aaron will do the same thing. He's like, I guess it's time to order in. I'm like, no.
That's me.
We can do this and this.
That's me even with grocery store. Like, literally the day after I go to Trader Joe's, I'm like, but do I want tacos? Or like, I don't know, like literally. That's how you end up spending a lot of money in the city.
Yeah.
But.
Oh, and she would make a lot of Mexican food, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
But also because where we lived and during that time, it was easier to get Mexican stuff than Salvadoran stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Is there a Mega Mart near you? Oh. Mega Mart. Have you been to a Mega Mart? That is just like, well, I don't know if have you been, it's near College Park, Maryland. There's it's Langley Park.
No.
That's like the
shopping center?
It's just a neighborhood / shopping center, and that's where literally all you'll find of like El Salvador, like yeah, there's a Mega Mart in there, which was near where I used to get my hair cut with my mom. And it's just like this big like grocery store, and they have like piñatas, they have candles, they have food. Like, just walking through there, you feel like you're not in America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy.
No, I remember it for Salvadoran things specifically. We would have to go to Manassas, and now there's a big, even much bigger now, Salvadoran community there.
Yeah, I think my
and
parents' friends live
Woodbridge,
there, yeah.
like that area, Manassas, Woodbridge, or we would go into DC because back then, what was it called? Columbia Heights. Columbia Heights had a big Salvadoran community, and not anymore, but yeah, back then they did. No, when we went to Maryland, it was like for crabs. You know, it was for the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh,
it was
okay, yeah,
for,
Baltimore, basically.
Yeah, Baltimore.
Wow,
or,
so interesting.
Or Annapolis. She wouldn't go there for immigrant stuff.
I guess you have to live there to actually like have a reason to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, whenever I tell people Maryland, they're like, Baltimore, and I'm like, no, like there's other places. It's just interesting how with Virginia too, I guess. How far are you from DC? How like
Arlington's right
it's
there.
right there,
so just
right?
the Potomac
Yeah.
River. That separates.
Okay, yeah, so it's like right there.
It used to be part of DC, so DC was a diamond, and one of the little corners from that diamond is Arlington. Today.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
And the Potomac just goes through.
Did you go to DC a lot when, like, as a kid, like when you were
Yeah, but as a family, I mean,
Yeah.
I had like no freedom, right?
Oh no,
and
yeah,
then,
me either.
And then in high school, I had this scholarship. My senior year of high school, I had this scholarship for college where they made us go to a meeting every Tuesday. I remember, and it was in DC. And my mom would drive me because most of the kids were from DC. There was a kid from Oxon Hill, Maryland. There was me, and there was a kid from Alexandria. Everyone else lived in DC. So, and like, apparently their parents were more permissive, so they could just take the train there. But my mom would drive me to the meeting. I'd do the meeting, then she'd pick me up, take me back home. Yeah, but as a family, we would go to the museums a lot.
Yeah.
We'd go to the festivals a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, not by myself until I was an adult.
Oh no, yeah, same. I don't think so. I think we went on a field trip in, I think like 10th grade or 11th grade to the art museums. When I didn't necessarily like care for art museums. But yeah, it was very different from like people who lived there in like a better sense of community. I feel like yeah.
Well, we ate a lot.
Oh my god, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's so good.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.
So we'll be done with this part.
Alright.
Bye, record. What was your mom's approach to clothing when you were a kid? Like, was she strict? Oh, the lighting's good. Okay, good.
Yay.
Yes, go Christine.
She's a professional.
Okay. Yeah, like, was she strict? Was she
I think
permissive?
it's kind of interesting. She definitely, when I was really young, like toddler to like maybe 5, I think she dressed me. And then after that, most of my elementary school up until like maybe middle school, my dad dressed me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Why? Because their work schedules are different?
I think so.
Okay.
Because my mom, I think, would have to leave earlier, so my dad would like lay out clothes for me in the morning. And there was one day, I literally remember the day. It was the day that I was like, I'm not wearing that, and I think he was offended because he's like very like, I mean, he'll put like matchy stuff, but I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I just looked at it and I was like, I don't want to wear that today. And I came out into the kitchen with another outfit, and he's just like, what about what I picked for you? And yeah, I think from there it was like the slow like change. But with my mom, I think my mom's very like, honestly, very trendy. Like,
yeah.
Photos from her in high school, she wore a lot of like mini skirts and like, she had plaid and like leggings and like all of that stuff. So I think she likes cute and like elegant sort of thing. Definitely nothing like low cut or like, you know, exposing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would she, I mean, did you have interest in wearing tighter or more revealing clothes?
Actually, I mean, she liked cute things like dresses and stuff like that. Growing up, I did not like the color pink. I did not want to wear girly things. I was like very, I'm gonna do my hands again awkward.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was, I, like, did not want to wear earrings, did not want to do my nails. I, did not like to wear heels. I like sneakers. So again, I think she was a little bit more of a, why aren't you, like, more kind of into the girly stuff? That's where I think we sometimes collided. But, yeah.
I was just looking at the picture of you throwing the peace signs.
Okay.
I loved it. Could you look just above my head?
Right here.
Yeah. Okay, hold that. Cool. Could you part your lips a little bit?
Okay. When I have to be serious that I can't. Okay.
I won't look at you.
Okay. That's literally a game we would play growing up, is the serious game.
Yeah, we would play that too.
Yeah, and like always lose every time.
Yeah, whoever can make the other one laugh first.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my mom she would just be like, "Un serio," and then we'd stare at each other, and then I would crack up. Like, so always lose.